How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. I'm Shaun alongside my guys, Kevin Dent, Jaevon, Garry will be joining us very soon. But this week we are joined by a special guest. Kevin, could you please introduce our special guest for me, please?
Kaz Johnson. Was I muted? Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you now. I accidentally tried to unmute you at the same time as you unmuted yourself. So that's on me. Go ahead. Let's rerun that.
Okay. So like I was saying, you got down my X now pronounced X app. And I saw him talking his Eagles shit. I was like, man, this is just the kind of guy we need on the podcast. I come on here every Monday and get attacked by all these Niner fans. We got Cowgirl fans in the comments. So I figured there's no one better to help bring everyone else to the Eagle side than my man Cass. So I just want to thank you for joining the show, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, not a problem, man. Thank you guys for having me. Like, appreciate that. Like I said, when you reached out, I was like, man, like I've been waiting to do something like this for a while, man. And like, you know, with some of my stuff getting out there and people reaching out, when you reached out, I was like, this guy's serious. I'm down to go whenever. So when you said let's do it on the 16th, I'm like, bet I'll be there. So appreciate that.
Glad to have you, Kaz. And it's unfortunate that you join us the day after the Eagles' first loss. But I mean, Jaevon and I, it's not like we could be showboating like we might have if the 49ers handled business, because 49ers, they also suffered their first loss on Sunday. And so we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into the Monday Night Football game that we just saw concluded on ESPN as the Cowboys beat the Chargers 20-17. I can't really say any of us are necessarily happy about that, but we're going to get into it as well as the rest of week 6 in the NFL. We're going to get to Factor Cap, Kevin's segment. Then we're going to get back to some college football, Vonny's Hotline. We got a lot on episode number 56, including our friend Garry joining us within minutes. So, gentlemen, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it as the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, they beat the Chargers 20-17 on Monday Night Football to bounce back after getting absolutely obliterated in Santa Clara 42-10. So, Kaz, as our guest, I'm going to start things off with you. What did you think about what we just saw from the Cowboys beating the Chargers on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, man. So just like a lot of people, I was disappointed. I wanted the Cowboys to lose for obvious reasons, with them being in our division. I was just like, they're not – I was just talking to Kevin before we started. I was like, they're not an impossible team to beat. They're very beatable right now, and the Chargers coming off a bye week, I'm like, they have the firepower to do it, and they displayed it today with Keenan Allen and not so much Austin Eckler. But, I mean, they had multiple opportunities. And just the game altogether was it was sloppy. Outside of Keenan Allen, it was just a slop fest. Flags every other play, and it could have went either way. The Dallas Cowboys could have kind of took off one way, and the Chargers lose, or the Chargers could have took off given all the opportunities they had. So I mean, just a sloppy game, and unfortunately for me being an Eagles fan, the Cowboys won. So.
Jaevon, what did you think about the Cowboys bouncing back with the win against the Chargers?
Yeah, we're back, baby. We're back. We're taking the division on. We're taking on the NFC. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great day for Cowboy fans. For the Niners having lost and the Eagles lost on Sunday. Cowboy fans, they're back in the groove now. We haven't in the group chat that we're in, Cowboy fans are coming out of the woodworks. We haven't seen or heard from them in weeks since the Sunday Night Football game. And now all of a sudden they're back. I kind of expected this, even though I did bet on the Chargers to win. Like Kaz already said, Herbert was a little bit, it was a very sloppy game. They turned the ball over a lot. They went for it on 4th down a couple of times. Albeit on one of the times that they ended up going for it, they turned it into points, but not so much the other times. So if you kind of look at it, the Cowboys had less turnovers. The Cowboys had less penalties, and that kind of was the deciding factor in the game. Now, albeit, Michael Parsons ends up getting his first sack. He's been the guy. I've been on the podcast talking a lot, this, that, and the third, saying they're going to do this and that. Watch out for us. But, I thought Stephon Gilmore came up clutch for them with the clutch interception at the end. Brandon Staley is showing why he should be fired as a head coach. I have no idea why he's still has a head coaching job in this league. I don't think he's that good. And Herbert pretty much is pressured on almost every throw, and he's still, I think this is third going on third or fourth year. He still doesn't have an offensive line, and so basically the Chargers are very quarterback dependent. If Justin Herbert doesn't have an outstanding game, throw for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, the Chargers can't win. Albeit they did have Austin Eckler back, which is a huge plus for them in the run game, and also the passing game as well. If Justin Herbert doesn't have a spectacular game, they don't win. And, I don't mean to, blame things on the rookies, but Kaz also mentioned basically outside of Keenan Allen, they don't have any other guy to really throw the ball to. Quentin Johnson, the receiver out of TCU, the first round draft pick that they had, he had 0 catches. He had like 2 targets, 0 catches. So the Chargers are missing Mike Williams, a big target that they have, who they did just sign for like $20 million, and he ended up tearing his ACL earlier in the year. So outside of Keenan Allen, there's not really much of an offense or much of a pass offense with this Chargers offense. So, Kellen Moore is going to have to dial up a little bit and scheme up maybe Quentin Johnson a little bit more to get him involved in this offense. But now starting to get Austin Eckler, acclimated with his offense, missing about 3 weeks with his high ankle sprain. So it's going to be tough for this Chargers team. They have they're 2-3 now, and they haven't even played the Chiefs yet. So it's going to get a whole lot worse for them now. So congrats to the Cowboys. You guys are 4-2 now, and they got all the momentum back.
Kevin, I wanted to ask you more so of a different question rather than just about the game itself. Was this more of a Cowboys win to you, or was this a Chargers loss? Because the Chargers seem to find many different ways to lose games.
I was thinking that. I think that the Chargers really missed a lot of throws, and Justin Herbert missed Keenan Allen on probably 2 touchdowns. You make those 2 plays, it's a whole different ball game. So, but like Toddy mentioned, we've seen that Justin Herbert year after year puts up these big numbers, but he has a big number in the sack total because they just can't put a good D-line around him. They committed the early picks to Rashawn Slater, and he's been doing his thing. But on the other side, you saw that Micah Parsons was purposely lining up over individuals over there and just taking advantage of them. So they have to figure out what they're doing up front. But I know we're giving the Cowboys all this credit, but the Cowboys almost Cowboy. They almost lost that game. Like, as much as we want to say we want to come in here and toot their horn, the Cowboys won yesterday. They went to sleep yesterday saying no matter what happens tomorrow, we got a chance. We got him. Who cares what happens? We got a chance. They went to bed, and all I saw was everyone posting the standings. Not that they had a game the next day, just the standings. Like, they already won. The us losing those games, and us for the audio only listeners of the Niners and the Eagles, you would have thought the Cowboy fans won the Super Bowl yesterday.
But did y'all win though? But did y'all win yesterday, though?
I mean, we get into that later, man. But to answer the question, I think the Chargers lost this game more than the Cowboys won it. We saw Dak come out there and really have to come in. And after the Niner game, there's a lot of things to said about him. There's already a lot of things said about Dakota Prescott. So for him to come in here and get this W on the road shows that this team could be cooking. I don't know if they're back, like Toddy mentioned before the show, but we'll see where they go from here.
Well, he looked like he was back at Mississippi State, Kev. He looked like he was back. That was the same day.
And Kaz, we have a group chat for our Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League. And in this group chat, there are several 49ers fans, several Cowboys fans. I mean, alongside his wife, Alyssa, Kevin's on Eagles Island by himself. And so weekly, what Kevin deals with is everyone in the chat basically becoming a fan of whoever is opposing the Eagles. Like last week, everyone was Commanders fans. Everyone became Jets fans this week. And I actually experienced as a 49ers fan what Kevin goes through every single week. I experienced that yesterday because one of my friends who's a Cowboys fan, he decided to post onto his Instagram story the Cleveland Browns graphic of the 5-0 becoming 5-1 and with the score. And so I replied to him and I just said 42-10, stay mad. He said 17-19. I was like, y'all boys don't play till tomorrow. He said, that's true. And I said, even after tomorrow, the 49ers and Eagles will both have a better record than the Cowboys, regardless of what happens on Monday Night Football. He was like, that is also true. And so had to humble some Cowboys fans. But ultimately, I wanted to ask you, Kaz, before we moved on to the Eagles, just what you're looking forward to the most about that upcoming matchup between the Cowboys and the Eagles, because it's going to be good.
So, yeah. So first off, I'm going to say, just kind of go off of what you just said. The thing about when you're a good team, which the Eagles the past 2 seasons, clearly we're a good team. It's just like the 49ers, multiple seasons, you have a good team. It just comes with it, man. Like, you have a lot, you're public enemy number 1, no matter what. As much as there's a little bit of animosity between the Niners and the Eagles right now, because of last season and how that panned out, like I like you said, you felt our pain. Like, man, I got targeted for after we lost the game. I'm like, man, like now I know what it's like. And it just comes with it, it's a good problem to have when you're a good team. People are preying on your downfall. And when you show one sign of weakness, like both of our teams did yesterday, they're going to come out the woodworks and they're going to attack you. So, yeah, welcome to that. That's a good problem to have. It sucks, but you got to own it. You got to wear it like a badge of honor, Now, as for the matchup coming up, so I did a video with one of my Cowboys homies. He lives in Texas. I believe we did it in July, and we did pretty much we went through every game and did early predictions. And I said this year we're sweeping the Cowboys. I said this is the year. I'm sick of it. I'm tired. We've gone through the Carson Wentz stuff. We've gone through the back-to-back seasons of being extremely injured. We have no excuse now. What's going to happen this year is we're going to see the Cowboys in Philadelphia first. We're going to dog walk them 100%. I'm looking forward to that. And then we're going to go to Texas, and I'm going to be at that game as well in December. And we're going to handle business, and we're going to walk away. And I don't want to hear a word from Cowboys fans moving forward. That's it. You guys at your best, us at our best.
When's the last time y'all swept the Cowboys?
It's been a while. But the thing is, since 2017, there's a few times where we sat our starters and the Cowboys would get a win. Like 2017, the year we went to Super Bowl, the score I believe it was 6-0. Cowboys won. We played our 4 stringers. That should have been a sweep. A sweep. You know what I'm saying?
What about the year they put up like 50 on y'all? Did y'all sit y'all stars that game too? I think so.
Yeah, we did. Yep, we did. Yeah. We did. So it's been kind of. Don't get me wrong. I'm a realist, man. I'll keep it straight. The Cowboys have gotten the best of Philadelphia in recent years up until now. Now it's a little different. So now I think that these 2 meetings are massive, and I'm looking forward just to the simple fact that we can finally solidify this is us at our best. There's no excuse. You guys were at your best. You got the Parsons. You got the Stephon Gilmore. You got Pollard. You said Zeke was a problem. Now you got Pollard there. There's no excuse. Whoever comes out on top this year gets all bragging rights, and I think we're going to sweep the Cowboys. So I'm looking forward to that first meeting, and I think it's going to be a blowout in Philadelphia.
Now joining us on episode number 56 of Stats Over Politics is the 4th member of our crew who has overcome a lot of adversity tonight with technical difficulties. Now joining us is none other than Garry Singh. How we doing, Garry?
Mr. Hansfield.
My guys, what's happening? I know it's a tough day to walk up in here. My team's on a bye and come with 2 losses on this side, but it's good. Nice to meet you, my guy, Kaz.
What's
Eagles
going on,
fan,
brother?
okay. We'll see what's happening. We don't care about Cowboys hate, so it don't matter about here. My whole family's Cowboys fan, but they're gonna be in the chat, but they won't be having a mic right now. So go ahead, keep it going.
Oh, how's the household over there? I know that it's rocking.
Oh, it's rowdy over there right now.
That's the only rise the way when they up, when they down. He's like, my team sucks, man. So that's how it's going over here.
Oh yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Garry, about what you thought about this Monday Night Football matchup, because as it just ended minutes before we went live here, and you really are the best representative of them boys for us here on Stats Over Politics, since you have so many family members that are Steelers fans or Cowboys fans, even though you are a Steelers fan. And so I just wanted to get your take on what we just saw on Monday Night Football.
To be honest with you, I feel like the Cowboys were due to this game because basically the beatdown they got last week by the Niners. They're bound to come back and had a bounce back game this week. I think, like Kaz mentioned, like they're going to have a tough schedule coming up. I think they play Philly coming up, and I think they play the Rams coming up too. So this was a crucial win if they actually wanted to keep their playoff hopes alive. Obviously, if they want to keep right next to Philly in their division, so this was a crucial win for them. The Chargers kind of give this one away in some instances. I know Justin Herbert was just a little off today, man. I know me and Shaun love Justin Herbert, and usually does wonders for us and usually makes those great plays. And, everyone kind of dogs the coach for making the decisions he makes. And, this is Kellen Moore's return against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. So it was really hyped up. But I feel like the Chargers fell short in some aspects, especially they couldn't really get the run game going. And, that last play, they finally let Parsons through at the wrong time when they probably could have sealed the deal in a 2-minute drive. What would Justin Herbert would look like? I thought he was going to do it, to be honest. I thought he was going to come down. They had some timeouts. And I thought, since the Cowboys were a little bit nervous not to go on that 4th down, they kicked the field goal, which was kind of surprising. They, put the pressure on. I was like, Herbert, 2-minute drill? It's a wrap. It's over. They're going to go home crying today. It's going to be looking tough for the next couple of weeks. But you know what? You got to give credit where credit is due. The Cowboys defense stepped up right at the end. And, it was a defensive game, surprisingly not. I'm glad I picked up the Chargers in my fantasy league just, because my Steelers defense was sitting out this week. So that was a good pickup for me. But I just feel like Justin Herbert kind of let go. We have 2 of those big deep balls to Keenan Allen that were basically dropped. One was a little bit too far ahead of him. So, I was on Justin Herbert right there. So the Chargers being the Chargers where they're being, you have great instances, but they haven't been great a whole game yet. So that's, that kind of bit them at the end of this game. And, got to give credit where credit is due. Dak had a bounce back week, played a little better. I believe no interceptions today. So, clean that up. And yeah, it was an ugly game. 2017, you would probably expect this would have been a higher scoring affair, but the Cowboys squeaked it out.
Another ugly game that ended with a very similar final score was the Jets defeating the Eagles 20-14 at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. It was an ugly game.
Garry lobbed you like that, man. That's fast.
We can talk about the Niners first if Kevin's still recovering.
Nah, man. I want to get this off because I got some shit to say. So I got to get my stuff off.
All right, Kevin, then let's not waste any more time. Let's hear it then, because the Jets, they beat the Eagles 20-14 to give Philly its first L of the season.
Life comes at you fast.
So, ladies and gentlemen, like every episode, we bring up the group chat, and kickoff was 1:25. At 1:27 precisely, Kevin wrote his intro to the podcast, welcoming the last undefeated team and bringing in the Browns, and I was going to look up some theme song music, and fast forward about an hour and a half.
He's going to come in with the shades on.
Toddy came in and said, life comes at you fast. and it does. And it does. But to start this soliloquy off, I want to say to everybody out there, Jalen Hurts has been our quarterback for 44 games, and this is his 2nd time throwing 3 picks in a game. So let's not say is he the next Josh Allen. He's leading the league in interceptions.
I don't know if that's a good thing, though.
And before I say this,
it's a lot.
For all of us, we're all football heads. We all know the rule for a catch is 2 positive steps. We all understand that, correct? We all understand that? We all agree?
Yeah.
So when Dallas Goedert had 1 foot on the ground and got the ball hit out of his hand, we all agree it should have been an incomplete pass or a fumble, not an interception.
A football move, as they call it.
But was that even a football move? Like, I hate that because now it looks like he threw 3 picks when essentially it was only 2. But it looks horrible. But let's get into this game. The very first drive, it was everything that we've been waiting for. We've been waiting to see everybody get involved at the same time. The first drive, Jalen Hurts goes down the field, 9 of 12 for 66 yards, 6 yards per pass. AJ Green had 2 catches for 18 yards, Smitty 2 for 18. And Dallas Goedert continued to have an impact this game. We were able to go down there and punch it in for an touchdown quarterback sneak. A lot of people thought that it wasn't going to be a touchdown, but it ended up being a touchdown.
That was on 4th down, right?
Yeah, on 4th down. But everybody wants to talk about where things went wrong. I will tell you exactly where the things went wrong. Dallas Goedert screen, like I mentioned, should have been an incomplete pass or a fumble. Them getting that turnover led to 3 points.
Let's have a shoulda count, like in the corner. Every time Kevin says shoulda.
That's the only one I'm going to say. The next one, DeAndre Swift fumble. We take it as it is. We want him to be that explosive guy, but Quentin Williams' brother, I keep getting the names mixed up, but he went in there at Quincy, so he punched that ball out. And as soon as Quentin got that interception and all they talked about was how the brothers both want 2 picks in the game, I was like, fuck, it's going to happen against us. We're going to have a D lineman and a linebacker brother core finish with 2 interceptions. But Lane Johnson going down and Nick Driscoll going in was the game. We saw the completely different game. Jalen Hurts was pressured 42%. which is a career high for him. He's coming in here. He's always had the consistency. And the example that I wanted to bring to the table today was, Toddy, you have a significant other close to a wife. So I'm going to go this the way to you. Your whole life, you guys have been doing things the same way. You wake up one day and you got different toothpaste. You got a different toothbrush. She changed the sheets on you and you're eating vegan. You're not going to like it. It's just going to be off. You're going to hesitate. You're going to look at this meat and be like, yeah, it's not cooked, but I'm going to be a nice husband. I'm going to be next baby dad. Like I'm going to try my best. And we saw Jalen overcompensate because when that D-line was getting there, we saw him look like he wanted to run more than he wanted to throw. And that pressure really got to him. The money man all season was Jake Elliott. And for him to miss that field goal was just a cherry on the top to say that the Eagles game is just going to the left. We saw last week when Devontae Smith was pounding on the sidelines, everyone's texting me like, oh my God, is he about to have an A.J. Brown game? Is he about to come out here and do the thing? I thought he was going to come in here and do the damn thing. I hit the over on everything. Over. Devontae Smith. Guilty. I was like, you know what? They're going to go to him early and often. Let's hit the over. And for him to drop those 2 passes, just drive killers. Nothing but a huge potential for yards after catch. We talked about getting Devontae Smith early. Getting him in there early and often so when you need him in the big play, he's there for you. But the last thing I'm going to say before I pass it off to Kaz, our last 7 drives were this. Fumble, punt, interception, missed fumble, interception, turnover on downs. The only positive thing out of this soliloquy is Shaun Desai showed up. I spoke about him last week, making that second half adjustments against the Rams to pull it home. He came out here and did his thing for us to give up 12 points. And I know Toddy's going to say, well, you guys give a touchdown at the end. We said, Ole, go ahead, straight to the end zone. Just go ahead and score, Breece Hall. You want your stats. You want your fantasy points, and we know you do. Go ahead and score. For us to lead that game to the last minute and 40 seconds really hurts. But a lot of good things out of this defense. So like Cass said, there's nothing to really worry about. This offense is going to figure it out. But having this great defense behind us is going to help us get to where we want to be.
Great.
Kaz, I'm sure that Kevin covered that pretty well, but I wanted to ask you to follow up on a comment from Kevin's boy Manny, because he said in the YouTube comments, Hurts has thrown more interceptions in 6 weeks than he did all last year. I don't know if that's true or not.
He's a Seahawks fan for context.
Take that as you may, and that is important context.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, bro. I'm like looking at Hurts this year and looking at Hurts last year. Outside of the interceptions, which like Kevin mentioned, not all of them are his fault. And that happens with every quarterback. So I'm not going to make an excuse. There's plenty of quarterbacks that, even as much as I hate the guy, Dak Prescott, I mean, he's kind of guilty of that. He kind of gets a lot of last season, a few of those interceptions he threw out of the million that he did throw were off the hands of receivers. So
had one last week.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not big on tripping about interceptions when the yards still turn up. You know what I'm saying? A lot of great quarterbacks that can put up a massive amount of yards. You're going to throw picks. You're throwing the ball a lot. I don't want to have a Jimmy Garoppolo stat line from, when he was a Niner where it's 17 completions for 122 yards and no picks and 1 touchdown. Hey, it gets you to win, but it's like I can live with my guy going out there being aggressive and trying to get his playmakers the ball. And as an Eagles fan, Kevin can also vouch for me. We know Jalen Hurts. He's stone cold, man. He makes mistakes. He's gonna just brush it off. He's gonna go back out there and do the same thing. And that's something that I personally love about the guy. He doesn't let bad situations overcome his game. He's gonna go right back out there and do it again. And time again, he's done that. It's start off hot, something happens, come right back, march right back down the field. So, I mean, the picks. Yeah, I mean, would I want us to go without them? Of course, but it's not all telling. We're still putting up a lot of yards. He's still one of the better passers in the league right now, and we just had a sloppy game, man. I think I read a tweet. Well, I know I read a tweet. Somebody said, "This is what happens when you come in and you take a team lightly." Before the game started, Sauce Gardner was announced out. Reed was already out. They had no cornerbacks. This game was looking like it was going to be just Philadelphia all day. We came in the game. I believe we were 6.5-point favors, and I noticed that line didn't change. Maybe I didn't check it in the right amount of time. I'm like, why did the line not change? Something's weird here. We should be about 9 with no Sauce Gardner
10.
For sure.
Should have been 10.
Yeah, I'm like, we should have been 9.5 at least. I mean, the Jets are the Jets are not a good team this year. They have a great defense, but collectively, the Jets are not a team that any good team should be worried about. So you come in there, you take the team lightly, and you don't make proper adjustments. You play very conservative. This is what can happen. And at the end of the day, just like the Chargers tonight, plenty of opportunities, don't capitalize. What the reason for not capitalizing? I mean, there's a lot of them, but at the end of the day, if you look at that Philadelphia Eagles roster and you look at that Jets roster right now, and this game doesn't exist, what's everybody in this chat going to say? What's everybody on this podcast going to say? Philadelphia is about to dog walk them. And you know what I mean? So a lot of mistakes, but those games happen. I mean, how often do we see a team go 17-0? You know, last time we saw it was the Patriots, like back in like 08 or whatever, 07, one of the two, and they still lost in the Super Bowl to the Giants. So I'm not really too pressed about the loss. I would like to have gone into this next week 6-0 just because it's Miami, and that's a game. That's gonna be all telling. So not ideal to be 5-1. On top of that, the Cowboys winning the night just closed that gap. That gap is a lot closer than what people want to see it for. They only have 2 losses, and we got 1. And if we lose to Miami next week and Dallas wins next week, we're right back at square one. So not too pressed about it. It's putting us in a position to where we have to show up, and we're going to need to prove to the rest of the league, because a lot of I mentioned before, when you have that target on your back, when you're public enemy number 1, when you have the team that's everybody wants to lose so bad. I mean, good teams, they prevail past that. You find ways to win the game. And I think that's one of Philadelphia's biggest opportunities is when you're not winning by 1 million points and you're not, running all over teams and whatnot. Your defense is crushing the quarterback. You still have to find ways to win. And that's what separates brilliant teams from good teams. You find a way to win.
Well, and to follow up on that, if I may, before we hear Jaevon and Garry's thoughts on this game, because I have been asking Kevin about this through every win, and it's exactly what you just spoke about, finding ways to win no matter how the game is going and ultimately leaving with a win. The difference to me in the first 5 weeks between the 49ers and the Eagles is the 49ers, they were blowing out all of their competition, where the Eagles, to me, and again, this is the 49ers fan in me, but to me, the Eagles were sneaking by. And that same strategy kind of bit them in the butt against the Jets. And so are you worried at all about this Eagles team this year? Just because to me, they haven't looked like the same team, but it could just be my bias shining through, because Kevin made it clear to me that they'll be fine, but then they have a game like yesterday where they're trying to sneak by and they ultimately end up with a loss. So is this a different Eagles team to you?
So just to give you the short answer, I'm going to say no. And maybe this is the bias to me, but I'm not worried. And there's a reason. The main reason is I've been a fan for legitimately 20 plus years now. And this is the best roster I've ever seen that us have last year and this year. And even with us losing some pieces last year, we came back with getting Jalen Carter. You know what I'm saying? We're loaded. There's not really a bone in my body that should be, tickled in the way to where it's like, I'm nervous. This is about as good as it can get. It's just like right now, you being a Niners fan, it's like you got CMC, the best running back in the NFL right now. I mean, collectively, he's the best running back in the NFL right now. Sorry. You got Deebo Samuel. He's a problem. He's one of the ultimate weapons of a wide receiver and a running back.
19
everywhere. You have George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. You have Trent Williams on the line, arguably the best offensive lineman. Why would you be nervous? And you have a great defense. You have the best linebacker by far, Fred Warner. I don't care about old boy from Baltimore. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the NFL. That dude's in on every play. The fact that a defensive guy like that, you watch the game and it's like a highlight reel. It's like, holy shit. Like, where did he come from? You know what I'm saying? There's no room to be nervous. This is what you want. So being an Eagles fan, we have the hardest schedule in the league this year. That's fine. That's what we want. This is how you how you start to, build that team camaraderie, that get that image. Hey, yo, this is who we are. We have a good team and we also win. So lost to the Jets. This is going to be all telling moving forward. We have to beat the Dolphins, and we have a monster stretch of games toward the end of the season. And we have to go through it. It's a good test for the Eagles. Last year, the excuse was Philadelphia has a cake schedule. That's why they did what we did, or we did what we did, and Jalen Hurts looked the way he looked. Okay, now we don't. So prove it. And so there's not a nervous bone in my body at all. I'm ready to see it. I think that our team will figure it out. like I said, we have the personnel to do it. And granted, we have new OC and a new DC, but that's not an excuse for me. We have playmakers everywhere. They need to go out there. They need to perform. And they need to solidify a streak of wins.
Joined here by Kaz Johnson of Kazzybear TV. You can find him on YouTube on episode number 56 here of Stats Over Politics. Jaevon, Toddy, the Jets beat the Eagles 20-14. What did you see from your perspective?
No, I'm actually shocked that neither of the Eagles fans mentioned the injuries that they had on their defensive side. Darius Slay, he did not play in this game. All-pro Darius Slay. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. Top 5 corner in this league. Jalen Carter. We did mention that Jalen Carter, or Kaz did mention Jalen Carter, about how him, being replacing guys on the D-line, but the guy's been on a defensive rookie of the year like tear, and he did not play as well. Now, I don't think that they thought that would be a big of a deal because, hey, it's Zach Wilson, right? This is not something to be worried about, like Kaz mentioned. He mentioned that word worry. We're gonna go back to that word a little bit later in the show, but he was not worried. Now, this was a gimme game for them. Now, Kaz also mentioned when Sauce Gardner, he even tweeted out and said, I'm perfectly fine, and then he even tweeted AJ after the game and said, this hit different after the win. That's neither here nor there. This was definitely a gimme game. I guarantee you, even if Aaron Rodgers was playing on this team at this point, I bet that you guys probably had the Eagles winning this game still. Schedule does not get easier for the Eagles going after this. Now, they are playing on Sunday night against the Dolphins, albeit it is a home game, but it is the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 5-1 team in this league. The Commanders is not a team to look past because we know last year when they played against the Commanders last year, as Kevin shakes his head, they did lose on Monday night. And I think that the Eagles will sweep the Commanders, but I don't think that they should just look past them like they did last week. You got the boys, and we all know how big that game is, going into the link, the Cowboys are. And then you get the Chiefs, then the Bills, then the Niners. Then you get the Cowboys again, the Seahawks. These are top-tier teams in the NFL that they're going to start seeing. And when you look at this Jets game and damn, that was a win that we could have. That is like a 7-week stretch where it's like you want to try and make it at least 500 out of that schedule. Because going back to even last year, how tough was it to get the number 1 seed? You had to win 14 games. You had to win 13 games to at least be considered in the top seed because the Niners were 13-4 last year and were the number 2 seed. The Eagles win. What were the Eagles' scheduled record last year? 14 games, 50 games.
14-3.
14-3. So when you start to add up these wins and losses, it's going to come down to okay, we got 14 wins. Oh, well, they got 15 wins. It's because the NFC is so top heavy. I think we all universally recognize that the Eagles and the Niners are the top teams in the NFC, if not the league. You're fighting for seeding when it comes playoff time. So just going into the game itself, obviously Jalen Hurts, I was a little shocked that he threw the ball 45 times. I've talked to Kev numerous times about, Jalen Hurts props, this, that, and the third. Him tush push, rushing, touchdowns, this, that, and the third. They're usually a run-first team, and DeAndre Swift only had 10 carries. He usually gets more carries than that. This is the lowest that he's had. Rush-wise, touches-wise, too, as a Philadelphia Eagle. So you would have liked to see DeAndre Swift get a little bit more involved. I do think you guys did underestimate this Jets team a little bit and how they're able to take the ball away. And this was something that we said about the Cowboys early in the year, but when they were beating the Giants, the defense was scoring points and them being able to create turnovers. This Jets defense, I've said in the past that this Jets defense is a top 5 defense in this league. And we saw that on Monday night when Aaron Rodgers went down and the team rallied around the defense. And Zach Wilson had to make, just enough plays to get their team involved. And I feel like with Breece Hall in the running game and him coming back of injury, he looks like he did in his rookie year. And Breece Hall being able to create plays and that be able to create play action for Zach Wilson and him be able just to make – he doesn't have to go out there and win you the game, but he has to make the necessary throws to win. And I feel like that's what Robert Saleh and the Jets are doing, Nate Hackett and the Jets are doing. They're basically like, all right, we know Zach Wilson isn't going to be able to win us games, but we know that we have a kick-ass defense who can cause us turnovers and get us more possessions than the other team, and that'll put us in just enough positions to win football games. And it doesn't hurt. It does not help when Jalen Hurts obviously throws for 3 picks. He threw for 280. I'm not going to sit here and say that, Jalen Hurts was the contract. No, Jalen Hurts is one of the top QBs in this league. He had a bad game. As you know, Patrick Mahomes didn't really have a good game on Thursday night. Josh Allen didn't have a great game on Sunday night. They only put up 19 points. All quarterbacks have bad games. I just think that when you give the ball away 3 times to another team, it's going to be hard for anybody to win. That's Mahomes, any of the guys that I just mentioned, Burrow, Herbert. We even saw with Herbert tonight. He turned the ball over. Cowboys didn't turn the ball over. Cowboys win. So when you're turning the ball over multiple times to the other team, it's going to be hard to win in this league, period. It doesn't matter if it's Zach Wilson, if it's freaking PJ Walker, as we're probably going to talk about the Browns game later. If you have a stellar defense and they're able to create turnovers multiple times in the game, your percentage just shoots up higher to be able to win football games. I think that was the case here. The Jets were at home too. And, even Robert Saleh said, he said this, I'm kind of paraphrasing on what he said, but he pretty much said when they played against all of the top quarterbacks, Mahomes, Allen, Jalen Hurts, he basically said we kind of made them look, real regular, basically. And I'm paraphrasing on what he said. And so he's not lying. As Drewski said, he was standing on business at the end of that press conference. So, hey, I had the Eagles on my parlay, so I was just as shocked as everybody else.
So, Garry, same question that I posed about the Monday Night Football game. I'm more so wondering, was this more of a Jets win or was it an Eagles loss?
I think you guys, to be honest with you guys, hit this pretty much on the nail with all your guys' takes of pretty fair take. I think, Kev, I was 1 week a little too early. I was predicting a loss last week that you guys were just getting caught sleeping. You guys got caught sleeping this week. But like I've been putting my notes right here, you guys been like, and also Shaun kind of mentioned, you guys been, his perspective was they've been barely sneaking out wins. I feel like they've been grinding out wins in different ways each week. And like you guys mentioned too earlier, you guys probably watch all your guys' players post-game interviews and things of that nature. All the players too are kind of pointing out how this is not the same team as last year. It's a little bit different vibe. So I feel like Jaevon mentioned that this is a bad loss because just due to the fact that you guys' remaining schedules are going to be up there and you guys are going to be challenged to really, for some great teams here. So you guys are going to be in battles pretty much every week from now going forward. But I think the key was that to get this win and grinding out another one, it's good that I guess they stumbled right here. So, all right before we play the good teams, we're ready to go. This is going to make them now. When you're 6-0, 5-0, you guys both are, know, even though you're winning, it's different when it's a loss because, what I'm saying, you can kind of breeze through because everyone can say we won. No matter what good team is, that's I feel like human nature in the game. Like, yeah, we can point. You can find things to fix in wins, even out ugly wins or any type of wins you see. And you obviously want to get wins in this league. But sometimes for the great teams, it's good to get 1 or 2 losses. Kind of remind me of sometimes the NBA, they needed a couple losses before heading into the playoffs or something like that, just to fix some things up and, grind some things out to, so I feel like that's going to be beneficial to basically both of your guys' teams. But back to Shaun's question, did the Eagles lose this game or the Jets win this game? I'm going to really give credit to the Jets here just due to the fact that their defense showed up and showed out and really the whole year, we've even before the preseason, everyone was predicting that this Jets defense was going to be one of the hallmarks. Really help Aaron Rodgers if he was here to, help them get to the promised land. He could ride the back of this defense and really get them there, maybe like a kind of like Peyton Manning did with the Broncos when he went to the Broncos back in the day. But, they proved it this past week. And, we can throw blame at Jalen Hurts and things of that nature for throwing some picks. But like you guys mentioned, you're going to take some of the smart picks. You don't want that to happen, but you'll take some of them if you're going to be aggressive. I don't think this is a huge problem. Like, I ain't gonna lie, we see with Dak when you just look at him, like, shake your head, like, some bad decisions. Like you see with some quarterbacks, it's like, all right, that's just a really bad pick. Like even my guy sometimes, obviously, anyone we all know, my guy
Kenny Pickett is great. Guy.
Yeah, exactly. Kenny, my guy right now at the moment. He's not only my guy. Still waiting until Thanksgiving, Vaughn. We're going to bye week. But anyways, just like it's Shaun. It all depends, I feel like, depending on the turnover. So his turnovers weren't too bad, except that last one. But at the end of the day, I just feel you got to give credit to the Jets really this week just for showing up. And you know what? Everyone's been throwing Zach Wilson's name around the mud. You give this guy a little I know his numbers, they weren't great. 186 yards, no TDs, but no interceptions as well. 19 for 33. It's not the greatest, but you got to give him credit, man. You just got to give him credit for, helping them get a win, because I was talking to my friend yesterday. He was like, "Oh, you seen Aaron Rodgers throwing?" I'm like, "Bro, they got Zach Wilson, bro." By the time if Aaron Rodgers even miraculously comes back for a game, I don't know how. I don't believe he is, but miraculously, whatever he does, somehow by God's will, he makes it to the playoffs somehow. And the Jets, I'm like, the Jets are not going to even be in contention to be, have a place to even for him to play. Season's going to be over. It's a wrap. So, it's glad to see that, what a tough season after the first four play games, that first game against the Bills when Aaron Rodgers went down. It's been probably, tragic and crying greeny on ESPN ever since. So to see them a little bit sparked up and happy yesterday, it's a good win for them, but bad timing loss for the Eagles, but it might help them in the long run.
Well, you better hope as a Steelers fan that the Jets aren't in contention for one of those 3 wild cards late in the season, because your Steelers are going to be right there in the thick of
we
things.
might get the division. Hold on now.
Okay. Well, anyways, your Uncle Manny, he asked a really good question in the YouTube chat, and Kaz kind of already addressed this question when I asked him the last question, but I wanted to get Kevin's thoughts on it because our guy Evan is also in the YouTube comments, and he disagrees. So what Uncle Manny asked is kind of a spin of our Factor Cap segment where he said, Factor fiction. Eagles not as good as last year, lost several players in the offseason. Again, Kaz, context, Uncle Manny is a Cowboys fan. Nevertheless, he wants to know if this Eagles team is as good as last year, which in your response to my question earlier, Kaz, our friend Evan said in the YouTube comments, hold up. Better than Deshaun Jackson, Mike Vick, Chip Kelly Eagles? No way you said that with that much confidence. And Evan even went on to say Chip Kelly single-handedly ruined the best Eagles team in history. Brian Dawkins at safety, oh my God. I'm not letting that go. And so I'm going to throw it to our resident Eagles fan here, being Kevin. And I'm wondering, Kevin, fact or fiction, are the Eagles not as good as last year's team?
So, as I was preparing for this episode, I knew either it was going to be a Cowboy or it was going to be Manny or it was going to be Toddy. So I came prepared because I know that's all we've been talking about is 2022 this, 2022 that. So I have some stats through the 6 games. So the question is fact or fiction. Eagles not as good as last year, lost several players. This is fiction. So 2022 through 6 games, 147 points, 2,367 yards, 144 first downs, 44% on third downs, and 5.6 yards per play. 2023, 148 points, more points, 2,370 yards, less yards, 143 first downs, 51% on third downs, 5.6 yards on per play. So we're comparing apples to oranges here. We're gonna say they're a worse team because of what is that? 40 yards. We have more yards, so they have one more first down than last year. We have one more point this year. So we're comparing apples to oranges here. That's a cop out. That's easy to say from a Cowboys fan, so I wouldn't have to say too much on that. But with Evan in the comments, man, I wish he would have been here last weekend, man. He's standing on business right now in the comments, but last week it was crickets. So that's all I'm going to address to that. He's in here going crazy with the Twitter fingers, but last weekend when it was his turn to take the root goal, he was nowhere to be found, man.
Well, I mean, Evan was wrong about the Las Vegas Aces sweeping the WNBA Finals as the New York Liberty got a game on Sunday. Prayers up for Chelsea Gray, but Evan was wrong about that. He may be wrong again. Who knows? I guess we'll have to have everyone debate in the YouTube comments. Anyways, here we are on episode number 56 of Stats Over Politics, alongside Kaz Johnson of Kazzybear TV. I have delayed long enough. It's now time to get to the sad news of the week, at least for me and Toddy, and that is the Browns beating the 49ers 19-17. 49ers got out to a 10-0 lead in this game, and then they were outscored 19-7 throughout the rest of the game. And the 49ers ultimately lose because rookie kicker Jake Moody, he misses a 41-yard field goal to end the game. And as I said in our group chat, I mean, the rookie choked, shit happens. But Toddy, from your perspective, what happened in this 49ers loss?
Well, I was very extra amped up because of the pregame shenanigans that went down. We saw BA was clapping in somebody's face, and then Debo's going over there, and people start swinging. Trent comes in and basically takes on the entire team. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be a very intriguing game. So, we jump out, boom, 10-0. I'm like, all right, we got this in the bag. This is not really. And Purdy looks kind of like, okay, that wasn't a good throw. Oh, that wasn't a good throw too. That wasn't, CMC was doing what he does. I'm not really worried about. I'm pretty sure we all know what he's going to do. There's a reason why he's minus 200 every week to score a touchdown, because Vegas knows he is going to score a touchdown. And then it kind of just lingers on into the rest of the game. Like, okay, Purdy, that wasn't a good throw. Like, what were we seeing here? And Brandon Ayuk had a few drops in this game that I was like, okay, that's not good. And then all of a sudden I'm looking around like, why is Ray McLeod running jet sweep? Where the hell is Debo Samuel at? Oh yeah, Debo Samuel, shoulder, not going to come back in. I'm like, all right, that's not cool. Then next thing you know, you're looking, Trent Williams is on the ground, grabbing at his ankle. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me right now. We're dropping like flies. So I'm like, all right. And then, PJ had a weird play where he like tossed the ball forward, but the ball was coming out and they ruled it an incomplete pass. And I was like, all right, so this is how the game is going to go. We're getting a lot of, we had a lot of penalties in this game. We usually aren't heavily penalized, but I believe we had 11 penalties for over 100 yards. So that's not good by any standard. And then, the run game, we're giving up a lot of rush yards. We were missing Dre Greenlaw was like kind of like right before the game started, like, oh yeah, Dre Greenlaw's not playing. I'm like, damn, he's kind of like a run stopper, tone setter type linebacker that is always alongside Fred Warner. Amari Cooper looks like he's back with the Cowboys, mossing Travarius Ward down the sideline, and I'm like, all right. Like, a lot of things aren't really going our way, but we're kind of just like letting them hang around. And then they end up driving down the field and scoring. And I'm like, okay. Purdy throws a pick. And I'm like, God, we're going to lose to the Browns and PJ Walker. There's no possible way that this is going to happen. And so I'm like, all right, Purdy, this is, I kind of want to rewind back to Shaun Gibson play where it was they called a necessary roughness on him when it was shoulder pad to chest. And I think this should be a play that should definitely, because we see this kind of all over the league. And even in college, whenever there's just like a targeting type play when a player leads with the crown of his helmet or there's forcible contact with the helmet, they usually kind of just go back and review it. I'm kind of shocked that the NFL doesn't really review those types of plays, because if the flag is kind of thrown, it's not like they're going to like go and review it and pick the flag up. That doesn't happen in the NFL because, well, no, NFL refs don't really take accountability when it's like, hey, I fucked up. That wasn't the right call. It's kind of just going to stand, and it is what it is.
Keep pushing forward.
So they drive down and score. I'm like, I kind of think we let them score so we can end up getting the ball back. Kind of what Kevin was saying in the Eagles game when Breece Hall ended up scoring a touchdown with a little bit of Olay defense. Like, all right.
Definitely not the same, but I get what you're saying.
Okay. But we're both sitting here with losses, so we're not comparing apples to oranges here. But
hey, but we opened the lane. You guys just couldn't tackle it. But continue.
Anyway, so Purdy.
This is a weekly thing, Kaz. This is weekly. Sorry, Toddy. I just got to say, like, this is weekly.
Oh man, that's crazy.
we end up getting a call that gives us a fresh set of downs because Purdy went like all the way to like third down to where it was like, okay, we're not able to move the ball. And he's grabbing the ball, and he's almost causing a fumble, can't grip the ball, and the weather, it's raining, and I'm just like, oh my God. And then Brandon Ayuk gets into the middle of the field, and we Ayuk sprints for like 30 yards. I'm like, no, there's no way we have a chance to win this game. And then we kind of get a first down. I think Juwan Jennings caught a first down, and that kind of set us up. It was like we had like 8 seconds left to where we could have ran another play, but then you're kind of just going back at just what's happened previously in football. If you go back to the Miami game when they ran a play when they could have just took a knee and the guy ends up fumbling, George takes the ball back, score a touchdown. You kind of just see those things in your head and you just don't want to take any chances. Boom, 41-yard field goal. I get Jake Moody missed a field goal early in the game, and I'm just like, okay, that was from like 50 something. This is from 41 yards, so this is not something that I get the game's on the line, but it's 41 yards, right? And it's not like it's on the left hash, on the right hash. It's right down the middle. He pushes it wide right. We lose. You see the reaction from all of the Cleveland Brown players. They're hugging each other, and they're like kind of shocked that he missed the field goal. But at the same time, I think us 49er fans in the back of our head were like, fuck, this is a rookie kicker. How confident are we that he's going to just drill this? This is not Robbie Gold back there where we just knew that the game was over. And I kind of just think that just going back to the entire game, we kind of let the Browns hang around with all the penalties that we had. We didn't really put our foot on their neck, and we kind of just let them hang around. They end up scoring. We turned the ball over, and we had some turnover, or we were able to generate turnovers as well. Like Fred Warner was able to catch an interception, Diamador Lenore. We didn't really put them away when we needed to. And, this is the NFL. When you have, guys of that, I think the Browns have they did this when Myles Garrett had a quiet, good game. He wasn't really getting sacks or tackles for losses. He was kind of just affecting our scheme to where we were like, we have to account for this guy. But other guys were kind of getting pushed through. And I think this Browns defense, I've even said on previous podcasts before that this Browns defense is one of the top defenses in the league, and they have a very underrated secondary with Denzel Ward back there leading the charge. So Niners lost. We didn't play good. Had a chance to win at the end of the game. Brock Purdy did not play good. I'm already seeing that people are saying, Brock Purdy has looked like this, that, and the third without Deebo Samuel and all his guys. So, at the end of the day, he led us down the field with a chance to win. Got to give him credit for that, but we ultimately ended up losing.
Well, before we toss things over to Garry to get his take on the AFC North, Browns defeating the 49ers, Toddy, I wanted you to address Evan's question because he said, let's talk about the play calling down the stretch. No belief in Purdy. To me, I'm just going to remain in my host role here, but to me, it seemed like Brock Purdy was doing what he needed to do to get down the field. He wasn't the reason why they lost that game. Yes, he didn't have a great game, probably the worst game of his career, but he wasn't the reason why they lost that game on the last drive, in my opinion.
I wouldn't say the play calling showed that he didn't have belief in Purdy because we dropped back like pretty much every single play. So I think there was some sort of belief. I just think that what we were trying to do with the play action and when Purdy is turning around to the other side, there's a guy in his face constantly. So he constantly had to roll out and throw the ball, and he had multiple intentional grounding penalties. So the Browns made him look like a rookie. And I think a lot of people would kind of get swept under the rug is how Jim Schwartz and Kyle Shanahan, when they usually go at it, Jim Schwartz usually wins that battle. And I think he's like 18-3 against Kyle Shanahan or something. It was like a crazy stat to where Jim Schwartz was like glaringly better against Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if that's counting, him being a defensive coordinator. Him being a defensive coordinator versus him being an offensive coordinator. But usually when they go out against each other, Jim Schwartz usually gets the battle. So I think he kind of has Kyle Shanahan's number when it comes to scheme.
So, Garry, the 49ers, they beat the Steelers. And the Steelers...
Why would you beat that up? Just give me a second. Let me have my happiness right now. I've been smiling since you brought this whole topic up. Go ahead.
So to finish what I was saying, the 49ers beat the Steelers beat the Browns, and the Browns beat the 49ers. Does this mean that the Steelers are better than the 49ers now, Gary?
Best team in the league.
I don't know. It's all good. I'm gonna keep, we're on a bye week off a win, so I'm gonna keep it at that right now with my Steelers. And man, I got a funny story for you guys. So I'm on the way to work too. I'm watching this game. I got my headphone in, watching the Niner game on my phone. And like, I go to the gas station, give me a little energy drink before I go to work. And the lady, she looks hella mad. I'm like, "What? Are you good? Why are you so mad?" She's like, my fucking Niners are playing shitty today. And I just started busting out laughing. Like, actually, why? She's like, "Oh, you're not a Niner fan, huh?" She thought I was a Niner fan, I guess. I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not." Right when I look at the chat, I see my guys over here look like they're about to start tearing up. I feel like you guys just painting through the chat sometimes. It's so funny. But anyways, man, this game, it was about damn time. You guys played a good defense this week. You guys, you know what? You guys is. I was trying to call last week. I keep mentioning Eagles lost last week. I'm trying to. You guys know I'll bring my record out later. But I'm glad I missed these 2 games this week. My record, I think I only missed 3 games this week, and I think only 3 games I missed were the Eagles and the Niners. So it's all good. We all fine with that. And the Cowboys.
Kaz, can you tell who's in first place in our Pick'em League? Can
you tell?
You
going? Well, let me just bring my record up.
Yeah, I'm saying it sounds like Gary's the man with the plan. So
they need to start taking my bets, man. I'm 63-30 right now. I'm killing it. I don't know why I ain't betting, Kaz. I need to put some money
30
over the year. Yes, 11-4.
Oh my goodness, I'm 51. Am I 51-27, something like that?
He's
okay. You up there too? See, Kaz up there too. Okay, but
I went this week. I went 9-5. No, that's not right. I got it right here. I went 11-4 this week. I'm 62-31. So I'm 62-30. My bad. I was gonna
Gotcha, G. Gotcha.
So I'm 62-31. I went 11-4.
Okay, we might need to start betting, man. We might need to start betting.
I'll put it out there on my channel, man. I do my picks.
Okay, tune in. Let's get it. So at the end of the hour right here too. Okay. The Niners obviously did not play perfect. And you know what? This was actually, they walked into this. Literally what the lady said, they walked into being shitty this week because last week you guys put the beat down on the Niners. And like I just mentioned with the Eagles, especially the beat down, Cowboys, put the beat down on the Cowboys. And when you put that kind of beat down, it's kind of hard to come and stand up the next week versus, an out of division opponent that you barely play that, that often, and you're going to the cold. I just don't think this was a great game for them to walk into. And you know what? They walk into, like Shaun mentioned, some AFC North football, and you're going to get you guys been slapping, you guys been down. That's what everyone's been mentioning. I've been mentioning last week. The Niners are finesse, but they also are finesse, and but they're powerful. They dominate you too as well. They got some dog in them. They're doing both, and that's really rare to see in teams. You got to give them credit for that. And this week they met a team that was as physical as them. And when you took that physical component out, and that was even, and then you take in the fact that at the end of the day, I'm not going to get on too much. He's been playing great all this year. He's been doing good. We're not going to get him after one regular season loss. Mr. Brock Purdy, that's what I'm talking about here. But he did not, like Vaughn mentioned, I'm glad he mentioned it, did not have a good game. And I know Shaun doesn't want to blame him this game, but he did not have a good game. When you took his 2 weapons away, and everyone preaches, and I got to preach too, he's not doing what Jimmy G did, like small little plays here and there. He's doing some big plays and making some good throws. And just yesterday, when you took his 2 guys out after the first drive or whatever they got injured, after they had a great first drive, it just wasn't quick enough. It wasn't as good as it was before. And I was with Niners fans right before I had to leave for this game to go to work. And I could just feel it in the building. It was not feeling good because Ayuk is dropping 2 balls. And some of the things you just weren't seeing, you haven't been seeing these last few weeks. So I guess this can be a good loss in the fact that you guys got woken up early, because we did talk about last week, half you guys somehow, some way, went undefeated going to the playoffs, how much pressure that would be, going into the playoffs. And Shaun kind of mentioned that he'd rather have a loss before that so that doesn't build up that narrative on you guys. So, this was obviously a bad loss for you guys. Shaun, Vonny already mentioned this is heaven. You guys got penalized a lot. You guys kind of really stabbed your guys self in the foot as well. So, you know what? You guys let loose a little bit, weren't as dominant as usual. So, yeah, resting off the beat down last week you guys gave. And that's what happens in this league. Like Jaevon mentioned, it's the NFL. We're going to keep mentioning it because at the end of the day, if you don't show up and show out every week versus any team you play, you're going to get beat. And that's what happened with both of your guys' team this week. But you know what? It's probably a good time to have these losses. You guys are still going to, like you guys mentioned. You guys mentioned earlier too. I just want to throw a quick nugget in there that, Eagles and Niners are obviously the two top teams, but I do want to throw the Lions in there. The Lions are still, they've been handling business week by week, slowly but surely, and they got a lot of young talent. So I don't feel like, also they're the Lions. We all know they're the Lions. They've been the Lions forever. So you got to kind of like our Kings were this past year. You got to show us when time matters that if you guys are still young or you guys are over the hump. But I just want to mention the Lions to be in that talk too, because I feel like they deserve it, what they've been doing every week so far.
Well, Kaz, I'm going to put it simply. The 49ers, they lost by 2 points to the Browns. But I just want to know, from the Philly perspective, are the 49ers frauds?
No. You guys, like I mentioned before, you got a loaded team, man. You got the guys there. So I actually kind of I owe the 49ers, especially Brock Purdy, an apology. Last year for my videos, I was heavy on the Purdy's not the guy. He's trash. This is all he's a system quarterback, all that good stuff. And I mean, we're now at the conclusion of week 6, and he had one bad game. 5 weeks back to back. I mean, you at what point do you stop saying, hey, this guy, he's a system, this and that? Not making mistakes is a very important stat. So just because you're surrounded with weapons and talent, there's plenty of teams that we've seen in our life where like they got the guys, but they can't win because they make a lot of mistakes. Purdy protects the ball, he does what needs to be done, and he doesn't put his team in a position to lose. That's a big one. So yeah, you guys are loaded just like we are. You got the guys around you, you got some big names, that's fine. And he's doing what needs to be done for his team to win. So I don't think the Niners are overrated at all. Just like I don't think that Philadelphia is overrated. I think we're rightfully rated. Like we are potentially the top 2 teams in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of teams knocking on the door. If we're not top 2, we're top 3. You know what I'm saying? So they're not overrated, just like Philly is not overrated, my personal opinion. The Niners are nice. They're supposed to be nice. And you take away that missed field goal, that's a win. That's 6-0. Doesn't matter how it comes. No team in the history of the NFL. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles were close last year, but just have rolled teams by double digits for 17 weeks. That's not going to happen. You're going to have close games. And you had a very close game and unfortunately came up short against the best defense in the NFL. The Browns defense is crazy right now. And that's stat proven. They allow nothing to their opponents. So you guys came in and your rookie kicker missed a field goal, and you guys were just that close from being 6-0. So far from overrated.
That's why I heard that much more.
Purdy wasn't perfect on the 2-minute drill though. He did have the first 2 incomplete passes. Then he didn't get bailed out. It was a right call on the flag on the third one, but it was looking a little rough in the beginning of that 2-minute drill. And I was like, oh, that's what I was waiting for right here. 2-minute drill. He's already missing 2 incomplete passes, but he did. Yeah. He got done the field after. So,
and I appreciate the honesty, Kaz. And Kevin, your boy Manny, or our boy Manny, at this point, he really gives us a lot of great talking points. Oh, okay. So he's my boy. Because
that's what you just said, yeah, that's your boy.
Yeah, well, what I was getting to is that he gives us a lot of great talking points on every episode of Stats Over Politics, and here on episode 56, Manny presents another great one, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Kevin. As he said, hot take: Purdy played better than Hurts this week.
No.
Kevin, what's your response?
God, no.
So, Purdy played better than Hurts. So I'm going to do some Shaun math. So A plus this. So that means PJ Walker is better than not only Brock Purdy, but Jalen Hurts. That's what we're coming to, huh? PJ Walker
sounds about right.
Is the next big thing. So I guess, Manny, he called me before the show. Told me he was going to let me have it. And when he told me he was going to let me have it, I wasn't expecting this. But, Manny's going to
be just saying anything now.
PJ Walker and Zach Wilson, the winners of the week.
No, all right. Let me just break down this Niner game, man. So all I heard from Toddy was shoulda, coulda, bad call, kicker. What about that number 1 defense? All that shit y'all was talking. 334 yards to the Cleveland Browns and PJ Walker.
17 points.
I don't know. You guys talking about
19 points.
Defense, this big defense giving up huge numbers. Garry, you remember when I did this last week and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel? What did I say? This offensive line has not played a good front. They play a good front. Purdy's on his back, looking up at the sky like, is this Hassan Reddick all over again?
Oh, the Steelers.
It's had nothing to do for him. He had nothing to do out there. And I saw so many tweets of saying, damn, no more CMC takes the bubble screen for 65 yards. Touchdown, Brock Purdy. No more Deebo Samuel, quick slant over the middle for 75 yards. Brock Purdy. It's just Mr. Irrelevant. Look real pedestrian out there. I know Kaz, we got to come out here and not really speak shit on them, but I'm going to let it be known. We call a system quarterback because the things around him are good. What do you call a quarterback in a bad system? A bad system quarterback. So it's easy to be good when everything's all nice, sunshine, and rainbows. But when your running back goes down and Deebo goes down, and we have to rely on Brandon Ayuk, Mr. number one receiver on any other team in the NFL, shit comes to light. But everyone made really good topics. Everyone had really good things to say. But the things that we missed, Toddy mentioned it earlier. So I have a section on my notes called Toddy's Tweets. So Toddy tweeted, we can't win with the refs on the payroll.
We need to start getting pictures on here. We need to start getting the
He quoted the pregame scuffle and said, last time 6. He said, we're finna put up 50. And PJ Walker saw that and said, watch this. So, you know, we want to say you guys are this, you guys are that, but when it comes down to it, you can't put all the blame on the kicker. The kicker, all it does is kick. He doesn't play defense. He doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't block. All he does is kick. Last year when Ohio State lost to Georgia, Toddy said, I don't want to hear that. Maybe C.J. Stroud could have got him closer. Maybe he could have done this. So maybe Purdy could have done more. I'm just saying, man, Purdy could have done this. Purdy could have done that. Shaun said we had 8 seconds. Y'all could have got it closer for him. You saw him miss the first time. You said as a diehard Niner fan that we said in the back of our head, do we really think this is going to go in? So, I mean,
versus the Browns offense.
The Browns, that O-line looks shaky. With Trent Williams leaving in the boot, it's only going to get worse. So, Niner fans, I hope you guys got your hard hats on because it's coming.
Peak early.
I will say this real quick just to address that comment about hot take. Brock Purdy played better than Hurts. In no world ever is a quarterback that just broke over 100 yards passing playing better than a guy.
I don't think he broke 100 yards.
He had 125. That's what it looks like here. Yeah. So, I mean, just broke over 100 yards while Hurts has over 300 all-purpose yards. I don't care about the 3 picks. 300 all-purpose yards, that I would take. Give me that all day over 125 yards and 1 interception and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I'm not the JV football game.
You know, so I'm like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, listen, I'm not. Hurts kind of stunk it up a little bit. All right, you know, I'm not just out here just to attack Purdy, nothing like that. But I don't think it's a hot take. I'm gonna take Jalen's stat line over
freezing cold take.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the 3 ends, 1 touchdown, and 320 some all-purpose yards all day. If I ever watched a game and Hurts had 125 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, I'm pissed. I'm not.
NFC Championship game last year.
Listen, wait.
That's now, embarrassing.
You mentioned that, which is fine. But with a loss on top of it, that makes it all worse. If Jalen Hurts had 125,
hey, y'all kept sending that funny back and forth. That was a lot.
Here you guys go. Grab you a tissue, Shaun. Toddy, grab you one. Go ahead.
Life comes at you fast.
I was at that game, man, and let me tell you what, that was the craziest environment I've ever been a part of in my life.
So you went to that game last year?
Yeah, I went there last year. Yeah, it was wow. So it was crazy. The energy was high. We was being told, you know, the Niners travel, they're gonna take over. I saw nothing but green. We did not see in that stadium had body. Everybody was standing. It was a party. It was nuts. When Trent got ejected, it was booming, man. It was crazy. It was crazy. But
temper started to flare up at the end of that.
It is what it is, though. Now we here. You know what I'm saying? So,
and all summer on the podcast, Mr. Deebo Samuel. We were the favorite thing you want to talk about all summer. Just couldn't get him out of his head. I'm telling you, man. Purdy wakes up in cold sweats, saying "fuck Hassan Reddick." Oh God, cold sweats. When he come into the link, he might have to have security. We might not even see the pregame fit. Security all around him.
Kevin, could you just do me a favor real quickly and show for our YouTube, X, and Twitch audience the famous meme that we tend to see all the time in our group chat. You just flashed it right there. Okay. So there's AJ Brown with a box of tissues. I was waiting for this very moment because, hey, here's my terrible Photoshop. He didn't even play.
Zach Wilson, Garrett, someone who played.
Well, the reason why I went with Sauce is because of that Twitter exchange between AJ Brown and Sauce Gardner. And after Sauce said, "Oh well, I'm healthy," but then he wasn't able to play, and AJ was like, "Oh, come on, man." All right, well, I guess without Sauce even playing, Sauce didn't even have to play. And I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't even gonna show that. I made that yesterday just for shits and giggles, but I wasn't even gonna show it unless Kevin brought up that meme on the podcast.
I had it on my screen as soon as we went to the Niner topic, just waiting for my turn.
Yes.
Well, there you go. I'm glad Kevin and we both stay ready. So there you go. As here we are in episode number 56 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent, Garry Singh, Jaevon Toddy, and our special guest, Kaz Johnson of Kazzybear TV. You can check them out on YouTube. So now, Kaz, we go into 3 games in detail every single week, but we got to talk about the rest of the week 6 in the NFL. So this is our speedy NFL week 6 recap, as Kevin will be rejoining us soon. And Kaz, as our guest, I'm going to start things off with you. And Thursday Night Football, as the Chiefs beat the Broncos 19-8. What were your quick thoughts on that one?
I hate Russell Wilson. It's a fiery passion. The Chiefs should have won that game. They did. And just a terrible game to bet on. All around. It's just a terrible game to bet on. Russell Wilson, I don't know what's wrong with that man, but he's not right. He's not right. And he gets no excuses. I hate him a lot. I didn't know that, 2 years ago I'd ever be saying something like this because I never mind the guy, the quarterback. But they lost that game. They should have lost that game. And I think it's because of Russell Wilson. He's so bad. He's so bad.
Garry, the Ravens beat the Titans 24-16 in London.
Ravens, this is a good win by the Ravens. I predicted they were going to win this because they were hyped up international game. You could tell Lamar and them were ready, coming off a loss last week, obviously, to us. So they're going to have a bounce back game this week. Lamar played great. I feel like he's still in the MVP discussion, just hovering himself around there. And yeah, this is the Titans, they're in a weird situation, man. They're going to fight hard and stuff and that things of that nature. They're going to be in every game, but they're in the no man lands, being 2-4 and in the middle lands with Tannehill, and you still got Derrick Henry doing great things. So I feel like they should they got to get a better quarterback somehow and get a little younger, so that I feel like they're still great with their coaching there. So exactly, they got to give him. He might go. Yeah, he might play this week, right? So we'll see. I don't know, but
Malik Willis.
Yeah, they haven't given an opportunity. Well, those guys, they need to actually produce a guy here because these guys, they have a lot of guys that are like kind of iffy. We need a guy that's going to really help this team propel themselves to the next tier here because they're always finding contention. But get that Ravens, got to give them a pound in the back. They're still chucking away 4-2, and Lamar's looking good.
Will Levis putting mayonnaise in his coffee is probably why he slipped from the first round to the second round. And I'll just leave it at that. Jaevon, the Commanders beat the Falcons 24-16.
I don't know why I bet this game, but I did. Had the Falcons in this game, and Desmond Ridder just makes so many bad mistakes in just key moments, like they'll be in the red zone. I'm going to throw an interception, or he just doesn't see the field well. Bijan Robinson is awesome. We saw Kyle Pitts sign him because they actually threw him the ball. Sam Howell looked good, I guess. I thought Brian Robinson was a difference. Curtis Samuel was a red zone threat. I would like to see them get Jahan Dotson involved more because early in the season last year, of his rookie year, he was pretty much catching nothing but touchdowns. I think he kind of is battling back from injury, so I might have something to do with it. They have a really good offense. If you kind of look at it, Scary Terry, you got Brian Robinson, you got Curtis Samuel, a guy who's been a threat in the red zone. Sam Howell just trying to put the pieces together. I think Bieniemy is kind of, they're starting to score points a little bit. And, Falcons just aren't that good. I think they kind of just deceive a lot of people with, certain key wins that they've had at home. But I don't know. They kind of got pushed around in this game. So Falcons suck.
Yeah, the Bengals beat the Seahawks 17-13.
Yeah, so I did pick that game correctly. I took Cincinnati to win.
-3?
What's that?
Did you take a -3 or just straight up?
I just straight up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No spread, nothing like that. Yeah, I've been saying for the past 2 weeks on my weekly predictions, the Bengals are going to do that thing where people are going to kind of forget about them and kind of, put that bad, Joe Burrow he's hurt. He's not the same. This now I'm like, you guys are idiots. This, I'm like, this
Sneaking
guy
up.
has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and he is Joe Burrow. I'm not a crazy fan of his. I'm not a hater of him at the same time. Every week that passes by and he doesn't hurt that calf and he gets better and better, he's going to just continue to prove teams wrong. So I took the Bengals to win that one all day. Wasn't surprised when they did. It was a good game to win because Seattle is a contender as of right now. And they did what they needed to do. What they did was actually very impressive given how they started the season off. So big shout out to the Bengals. You beat a very good opponent. You handled business at home and they put themselves in position, unlike my Eagles, to kind of get that ball rolling and show the league, hey, we're still here. We fooled you the first 3 weeks. Now get ready to really feel that Cincinnati Bengals team. So good game by the Bengals. I think they were a little bit better than Seattle when they were at home. So
Jamar Chase 7-11 chain.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. As Kevin rejoins us, it's perfect timing for you, Kevin, because I wanted to ask about your AFC team, the Jags, led by Dougie P. As the Jaguars, they beat the Colts 37-20.
After week 1, I believe Anthony Richardson went in there. I think it was in Indianapolis and the Jags lost week 1. So we saw Anthony Richardson come in his rookie debut and really light this team up, not only on the ground, but through the air. In this game, we saw, Kaz, I know this is going to hit home for you, just like it does for me, man. Gardner Minshew just looked like a fucking backup. He went out there 33 of 55, 329 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. We saw what they did with the rookie. They were able to get the W. Same team, just a different quarterback. You plug in Anthony Richardson, but this game you plugged in Gardner Minshew. It was a completely different result. Trevor Lawrence, unfortunately, went down. So now there are a lot of questions for him regarding Thursday Night Football. But Trevor Lawrence, like Shaun mentioned, Kaz, I was a big Jag fan. I was on schedule before their big leap. I called it all offseason. This was going to be the team. Doug Peterson's going to come in here and have this offense playing outside of their mind. And I have to go and say, Travis Etienne, I was wrong about you, and I apologize for skipping over you in fantasy. This dude is a fucking dog. 18 carries, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is single-handedly holding this offense afloat because Calvin Ridley, my gosh, has been MIA. Christian Kirk does his thing. We have Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, but Travis Etienne is probably the only person that consistently shows up for Trevor, not only on the run, but in the air game. So a lot of things to see from the Jags, but I'm excited to see what they can do moving forward.
Blue is also very excited to see what the Jaguars are going to be doing going forward. As Garry, the Dolphins, they doubled up the Panthers 42-21.
Yeah, they started off this game down 14-0 versus a team that hasn't got a win this year in the 0-6 Panthers. And boom, bada bang, you see Tyreek Hill to Tua connection, drop 21. That's the closest team you're going to get to, like, they kind of what Chiefs were when they had Tyreek, obviously, when they felt like a track meet. This felt like an all-star team base. This is what this Miami team is right now, an all-star team and a track meet. Does you're just great. It's one of the funnest teams really to watch in the league. You got to me, I thought you got to turn them on just to watch the offense, see Tyreek do one crazy things week after week, and boom, they flipped it 42-21. Tyreek right here with 163 yards on 6 catches, Tua with 262 yards or 3 TDs. I had one bad week a few weeks ago against the Bills, but other than that, they've been chipping away, been, really just been winning, handling business. Basically, we always been calling them like Niners, I guess, AFC version, because the offense and the connection what they have and kind of the similar playbook style they run with the innovative offense they have. But you got to give credit where credit is due right here. Panthers just get ready for another draft pick and see how you can help your young buck out back there. At least he's getting some reps to, try to get better each and every week. Doesn't really have anything but Adam Thielen, which I'm glad I have in one of my fantasy leagues, which is kind of last minute pickup. But OG's been picking up me some yards and helping me get some wins here. So shout out to Adam Thielen, still doing his thing in the league and, trying to help the youngins over there get right. But their team needs a lot more things still. But the Dolphins, man, still cooking away, guys. This team right here is going to be a tough one to handle. I think what you mentioned earlier, they come face the Eagles next week, so it's going to be a great matchup to watch. Last week's going to be it's probably one of those games where you think fireworks are going to fly with offense. It's probably going to be a defensive game watch. But Miami's defense, they fall short against the Bills a couple weeks, like I mentioned. So but they got some guys on this team that if they can get right and that defense at the right time can be clicking, they'd be really scary.
Before we move on, Shaun, I have to give Garry some love here. Before, in the beginning of the season, we do a factor cap like we will do it early in the show. And the question was, will Calvin Johnson's record be broken? Garry told it, and he said it. He screamed it to the heavens, and he said it twice. He said it 3 times, said it 4 times for the people in the back. During Calvin Johnson's record year, he averaged 122 yards per game and 16.1 per catch. Tyreek Hill's averaging 135 yards per game and 19.4 yards per catch. He is on pace for 2,306 yards. It is week 6, and he has 814 yards. He's 186 yards from 1K. So, Garry, you said it. I had to come on here and give you your flowers once I saw this stat. So, he's on pace.
Appreciate you, Kev. But I hope, man, Tyreek, man, I seen that video. He does crazy stuff. He grabs the phone, does the flip, but it's like, slow down the flips. I want him to make, he kind of gets pull something at the end of the game real quick. Like, let's get Kev, that only happens like we mentioned. I'm hoping it happens. I've been calling it like he mentioned all year. I think he's the best wide receiver in the league, just on all different things he can control in the game and the effect he has in the game. But my guy, come on, Cheetah, stay healthy, baby. Let's stay healthy to the end so you can get that.
Jaevon, you decided to start a running back at quarterback in fantasy this week as the Vikings beat the Bears 19-13.
Justin Fields gets hurt in the game. I start him, but I mean, it was kind of, I have Brock Purdy as my other quarterback, so it was kind of like pick your poison. I just think the Bears just aren't. The Bears fooled everybody on Thursday night. Okay, they kind of gave you some false hope, momentum, like hey, like maybe we are actually good, but then you kind of turn the game on. You're like, okay, they're up by 3 points. Kind of letting the Vikings hang around and. They had that big defensive turnover for the Vikings, and Kirk is just going to be as consistent as he can be. When no one's really watching, he's pretty good, but when the lights are very bright, he usually shits down his leg. So the Vikings, you could argue. I mean, Wes was trolling me on Twitter. He added everybody and just said skull because I think we all picked the Bears.
All 4 of us.
I think we all picked the Bears to win, so he just wanted to let us know that skull is in the chat, as Kev always says. So we'll see how far. I don't really know. The Vikings aren't really going anywhere. They play the Niners on Monday night, so we'll see if the skull is going to be in the chat Monday night. So yeah, I mean the Bears are who we thought they were, as the infamous quote is, and I think Justin Fields is hurt too, like he hurt his hand or something like that. So not a good sign for Bears fans.
As the Texans beat the Saints 20-13.
Yeah, loved every second of that. Called that game 100%. I've been called crazy I picked the Texans last week and this week. And my
Texans last week.
Yeah, and they should have won. And they should have won. I mean, they played Atlanta. I think it was Atlanta last week, and Atlanta had that last game-winning drive. I'm like, woo! I mean, damn, man. Like, you did about everything you need to do to win that game. You're a team that's trying to prove something. That division's still wide open because Jacksonville's not playing great right now, and they're pretty much the front runners with Anthony Richardson. Being banged up, and that's probably the Colts' only shot of having any sort of success this season. I'm like, the Texans are nice. And this week they got the dub. And I think that as long as DeMeco Ryans, he just gets that defense going. I don't know what's going on with Dameon Pierce, but if he can get that defense going, okay, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins will handle business. If they find a way to get Dameon Pierce going, watch out. Because he's trash right now, but watch out. So big win from the Texans. They were at home. I think it was a good win from them for that reason, just to kind of give their fans a little bit of hope. They're playing against a Saints defense that is good. They have Alvin Kamara back, and I understand that Derek Carr may not be playing the best football, but the Texans, before the season started, I mean, everybody here would probably say the Saints should win this game, and the Texans handled business. So I think the Texans are going to be that problem team. They're going to be that team that down the stretch, whether they make the playoffs or not, they're going to beat some very good teams out there and mess up their chances. So big game from the Texans, and I hope CJ Stroud continues to shine. I mean, he's looking like the best quarterback out of that draft for sure right now, and I love it. It's awesome.
By the way, the Texans' win total was 5.5. They already have 3 wins.
Yeah.
Toddy's Saints.
Oh,
well,
nice.
that's exactly why I threw myself on the big screen, because I wanted to bring up this
I
comment
even quoted
from Manny.
myself on Twitter, and I said they're a dog shit franchise. So I don't know. It is what it is.
Man, don't feel bad, bro. Before the season started, I was like, man, Panthers gonna take this division all day.
Oh, Kevin said the exact same thing. Yeah.
Hey, before I'm like, man, Bryce Young about to come up in here, bro. And hey, look, I don't care about the size, because when we drafted Smitty, he was too small. I'm like, nah, see, that's all facade. They don't understand what Bryce about to do. I'm like, I have never been more wrong on a take in my life.
Tough. Yeah. Life comes at you fast.
and then right now, the Buccaneers, for a little while before they lost, they was looking, pretty damn good. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this wasn't supposed to happen. Like,
yeah,
that
division is pretty much up for grabs. I have no idea who's going to win that.
No clue. No clue.
Couldn't tell you.
Kevin, are you back with us for the next game? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So the Raiders, they beat the Patriots 21-17.
It's so sad for all of us in Kaz. I'm sure you can fall in this category as well. As our whole life, we've seen the Patriots just dominate. From their first moments of football, you see Tom Brady hosting the Lombardi. You just hear all about Tom Brady, and now we're kind of onto that next phase in Bill Belichick's career, and it's Mac Jones. He's been outscored. I forgot the stat, but for the past 2 games, they didn't even score a point, and then this game they were close. But as a Patriots fan, how hurt are you that Jacoby Myers is on the Raiders going nuts? And you didn't choose him. You chose to pay the exact contract to Juju Smith-Schuster, who hasn't done
I know y'all do not like Juju. They hate Juju. They being Eagles fans.
Juju sits real hard and close to my heart. But the biggest thing I took away from this game is I don't think Bill Belichick is going to get that record. He's 26 games away from the all-time winningest record as a coach. And this might be a hot take. If he wins that, if he gets that, I think it's not in the Patriots uniform. So the Patriots have a lot of things to figure out.
All right, Garry, the Lions, they beat the Buccaneers 20-6.
Should I say Baker Mayfield for Vaughn again? Baker Mayfield came back to earth, Vaughn. Shit, 1 interception, 206 yards, looking real casual. My guy, Mike Evans was so. Chris Godwin was cooking up. I'm only saying that because I have him in fantasy, and he kind of disappointed me, so I had to mention him. But the Lions, man, like I mentioned earlier, that I feel like their name should be in the NFC, top of the NFC, right? 5-1. Simple as that. Beat the Chiefs even though it was only by 1 point. Beat the defending champions in Week 1 by stamping their name, basically saying that we're the new look Lions and we're a team that you're going to have to be reckoned with. Jared Goff, man, like I don't know, when I traded him, I was really down on Jared Goff, but you do got to realize Jared Goff did, even though he was on a Rams team that did go to the Super Bowl, he might have read the coattails of Sean McVay or wherever you want to say it, but he did get there on a team to the Super Bowl, and he's been looking great in a Lions uniform. 30 for 44, 350 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions. You just look down the whole of the stats for the Lions. They're just passing the ball. Everyone's getting touches. That we got 3 guys over 50 yards. You got a lot of people just spreading the love over there in Detroit. And they're kind of under the radar in a sense. They're kind of a sleeper team, but their team, like we mentioned earlier, I feel like they really can make some noise when the end of the year comes. And they're a gritty team. They're a hardworking team. They kind of take their identity of their coach, like we already mentioned before in the past episode. So Detroit is a good team right now, and you got to look out for them. Tampa Bay coming back to earth, but like we mentioned earlier, this is anyone's division for Tampa Bay. So they're 3-2, so they still got a chance, and maybe Baker Mayfield can come back alive again.
Jaevon, I don't know how good you feel about Baker Mayfield at this point, but the final game we have to talk about is in the NFC West as the Rams beat the Cardinals 26-9.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Cooper Kupp show. Cooper Kupp is officially back. He had the touchdown.
Cooper didn't show up.
I think that the Rams are going to be that team that kind of is like, all right, like, we only have Aaron Donald and, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, those guys remain from the Super Bowl team. How good are they, minus all the picks that they don't have? Can they just be a team that kind of floats around 9-8, scrappy, somehow figures out a way to get themselves in the playoffs? I think they can. Matthew Stafford is, Super Bowl winning quarterback. He has the experience. I think there's a ceiling on this Rams team on how good they actually can be when they go, against those top tier teams like the Eagles and like the San Francisco 49ers. They usually kind of, tuck their tail a little bit, as they have shown earlier in the year. But can they, compete against the Seattle? Can they compete against, the Lions? Can they compete against the Saints?
I was waiting for it.
I think they can kind of. I feel like this team can definitely go like 9-8, 10-7 maybe, if we kind of look up when the dust settles. I think they'll be able to rack up wins, because we all believe that Shaun McVay is one of the top NFL or coaches in the NFL. So if Matthew Stafford is healthy and able to go, I feel like the Rams are a fighting chance pretty much every week.
Perfect. So moving on, Kaz. This is one of the most popular topic or popular reoccurring segments following Shaun's pop quiz. We haven't had one in a while, but that is the OG topic, so it has to hold first place. So, Kaz, I'm going to come to you first. This is called Factor Cap. So, Kaz, Factor Cap. The Dolphins are the best team in the AFC.
Wow, I wasn't ready for that.
The AFC.
Damn. Fact. Their defense, they're fine. They're not crazy. They're not terrible. Their offense is OP, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. And somebody mentioned earlier about talking about Tyreek Hill. I believe it was Garry. Obviously, very high on Tyreek Hill. That dude, he's just on another planet. It's not even. I can't really find the right words. Any given time, as long as that man is suited up for your team, you have a chance to win by a very large margin. Just the simple fact that he's out there. Right now, the AFC, I think the Bills are a little bit underrated right now. I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. They're very well coached. They got the best quarterback in the league, and they're the Chiefs. They're the defending champs. They're always going to be around. We know that. But as of right now, AFC, Miami Dolphins, man. I mean, they're how can you say otherwise? I don't really think you have to really get too into detail with that. They put up 70 damn points, dog. I mean, come on, man. Come on. I think I tweeted after I saw it, I go, I better never see no shit like that ever again in my life. That's a college score, bro. Like that's not supposed to happen in the league. But they did it. And they're gonna probably roll through that division, I think. And granted, they did lose to Buffalo. I think they're on the road and they lost, but Buffalo's not on the same level as them. They're not losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in any way, shape, or form. They're not losing to I would even say a team like Detroit. Detroit's nice, but the Chiefs week 1, laid that egg with all those drops and whatnot. I just think that you got to score 30+ points in order to beat a team like the Dolphins, and it's just not too many teams looking like they can do that right now. So I say fact, man. Miami's the number 1 team in the AFC.
Okay. All right, Garry, you are the AFC guy on the podcast, so I'm going to bring it to you next. Factor Cap. The Dolphins are the best team in the AFC.
Fuck you, on Cap. I love the Dolphins. Like I mentioned earlier, the Dolphins are really like I mentioned. You guys already preached earlier about Tyreek Hill and things of nature, so I don't really go into that. But this is Cap to me. I feel like, Kaz, I know you kind of glossed over, but at the end of the day, I do feel like the Chiefs are still until you beat the champs. You got to beat the champs to be the champs. That's how it always goes. That's always the number 1 saying, and it falls perfect right here. This is inches right here. That's not saying this is a big gap, even though I do feel like there's a big gap with Patrick Mahomes, the next best quarterback in the league right now. So that's the only gap I see really for this team. Other than that, I do feel like the Kansas City Chiefs, other than the first week 1 loss by 1 point to a very good team like we mentioned earlier in Detroit, they've been handling business, getting dubs. Travis Kelce doing his thing, marketing all the way. You see him on every commercial with him, taking advantage of his Swiftie life or whatever you want to call it. So I just feel like the Dolphins, they're right there. They're like, I think they're number 2. Number 2, I would go. Then after that, I think I'd go probably Buffalo in 3, and then Baltimore 4, and maybe Jags rounding out maybe the top 5. Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're all. This is the AFC's always where it's jam packed. It's going to be like really inches between these teams. Really, who's better, and it really be depending on the week to week. But overall, I'm going to take the team that I think is going to win the Super Bowl this year and going back to back. I'm going to take the Chiefs, still standing strong right now as the best team in the AFC.
That hurt to hear you say that back to back. We don't have to say that yet. All right, Toddy, I'm gonna come to you next. Factor cap. The Dolphins are the best team in the AFC.
I'm gonna say cap. I think it's the Ravens. I think this team that Lamar Jackson
beat them, bro.
It was awful. A lot of things had to go right for the Steelers to win that game. It's hard to kind of scale whenever they play the Steelers because those Ravens games are always just going to be weird, nevertheless, whatever the score may be. I just think when Lamar is getting weapons, the emergence of Zay Flowers, how much that he looks for him in the offense. Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't really even gotten going. A lot of people kind of, gloss over Mark Andrews as he usually is his number one target. And albeit they lost J.K. Dobbins for the year, I think Lamar has kind of been able to navigate him being able to run and being a pocket passer at the same time too. So I think this defense has been playing pretty well, honestly. Their pass rush has been very underrated, and they're able to kind of generate turnovers. So I get Patrick Mahomes is there. I feel like if you take Travis Kelce away from that offense, we saw what happened with the Detroit Lions game. And they kind of had a game plan going into that. But I feel like the Chiefs aren't really just like they're above pretty much everybody else. As usually in past year, we'll be like, all right, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's way up here. Everybody else is kind of like falls in line. I feel like the AFC has a little bit more parity than it does than in recent years. There's, like you said, the Dolphins, there's the Chiefs, there's the Ravens, the Bills are kind of still up there. So I feel like this AFC is up for grabs, and I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC right now.
Okay, Shaun, I'm going to bring it to you next. Factor cap. The Dolphins are the best team in the AFC, excuse me.
To me, this is cap. Garry said it best. Until you take out the champs, they are the best team in the AFC for me. I mean, even if they weren't the reigning Super Bowl champions. I feel like we've been having this same discussion for the last 5+ years, at least ever since Patrick Mahomes has been around as an established starter, that everyone is looking at what's new rather than the team, just like we talked about the Patriots being around forever. Feels like the Chiefs are now that team of this generation. And sorry for Garry being in the AFC, but that's where the Chiefs reside. And so until someone definitively takes them out and they're out of the running for a couple of years, the Chiefs will arguably, to me, I mean, I say the 49ers are the best team in the NFL, maybe through 5 weeks. But if you're asking me the best team all around, I'm still going to take the Chiefs over the 49ers, the Eagles, or anyone else. So, yes, they are the best team in the AFC.
Because of the baby goat.
Yeah, so anyways, this is cap, all because of Patrick Mahomes.
All right, factor cap. Are the Dolphins the best team in the AFC? I'm going to have to say cap as well. Just like you guys have been mentioning, you have to beat the best. To be the best, you have to beat the best. And if we see Chris Jones and Travis Kelce week 1, are the Chiefs, is the Chief narrative different? Are they now 6-0? So there's a lot of things to take from that game, but this is the one season the Chiefs have had a really dominant defense. Their defense has picked it up this year. That's always been their downfall. But this season, they have been playing well since Chris Jones has got back. They have been flying high. This defense is all over the field. Travis Kelce is simply put one of the best tight ends ever, arguably. I don't even know if it's a debate. But Travis Kelce continues to do it. For him to have 100 yards in the first half just goes to show that connection is unstoppable. You can't stop it. So I really wanted to lead the Dolphins, especially with Toddy's guy, Jalen Ramsey, coming back. But, just like I'm going to tell you, Toddy, what have you done for me lately, man? If Aiden Hutchinson had more picks than you, I don't really know if that difference is going to make it. So I'm going to have to go cap. I'm going to go with the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. So, Toddy, I'm going to come to you first with this next question because this kind of we haven't talked college football yet, but, all roads somewhat lead to Toddy's guy. So, Toddy, fact or cap? The Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins.
Where are they? They're 2-4 right now. He's making a pretty decent amount of money. Justin Jefferson's hurt. Offense hasn't really looked as good as they'd like it to look. The team really hasn't looked as they'd like it to look. We'd had people, saying that the Vikings were going to win this division. Even after last year, the year that they had, they won 13 games last year, if I'm not mistaken. So is it kind of time for them to just blow it up and just, as Kev says, my guy, he is referring to the best quarterback in college football, that being Caleb Williams. Didn't look like it that last weekend, and we'll probably get into that a little later. But I feel like the road is kind of nearing. I'm not sure if you trade him now or at the end of the season to see what you probably might be able to get. But I feel like if you want to, kind of steer towards that number one pick, you probably have to trade him now. So you can kind of just start, all right, we're tearing everything down. This is something I'd like to hear from Wes. What does he think? He's a real skull in the chat, as Kev always like to say. So I'll say fact. Vikings probably need to trade Kirk Cousins. We kind of already know what he is and what his ceiling is, and what they would look like with Kirk Cousins. And it's not good enough to win a championship. They've won a playoff game in I think in the 4 years that he's been there. But that was pretty much it. I think Kirk Cousins, his record in primetime games is god awful. So I will say that this is a fact. The Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins.
To answer your question about Wesley, I'll just make it short, sweet, and simple. He posts Shador in a Vikings jersey all the time. So take it as you want. I don't know what that means, but that's how Wes feels. So, Gary, I'm going to come to you next. Fact or cap, the Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins.
I think this is fact because they're just in the middle of the pack. I think, like we just mentioned, I think they're 2-4 already, something like that right now, and they're pretty much just in the middle lands. And in the NFL, when you're in the middle lands, it's not really a good spot to be in. I'm just looking at where they're at right now. 2-4. Obviously, they're ahead of Chicago. Detroit's obviously going to win this division. They probably could maybe shake through or get lucky to get maybe a wild card spot, maybe if they can, rack some wins up here. Their schedule, obviously, they play Niners just a week, so I'm going to predict that as a loss, especially if the Niners coming off a loss. They're probably going to come back and whoop that real quick. I'm not going to lie. So then they got Green Bay. That's a divisional. It's going to be, throw it up for grabs. Atlanta ain't nothing to, sneeze at. Saints, again, Toddy's team, they're still going to be fighting. Broncos, you already talked about Russell Wilson. Taz, it's over with them. They pretty much can wash that away. So they could probably get a win there. So a lot of middle games they're going to have. They're going to be in some of these games, and so they probably could have a chance. Like, what is that going to do for this team, though? Like I just mentioned earlier, quietly, Justin Jefferson is probably going to be out. And to be honest with you, I know I hate to say this and stuff like that, but maybe you should have sit him out to get Caleb Williams, to get a guy. Like, you already know Kirk Cousins. You guys tried this for a few years. He had a couple of nice, cool little videos with some ice on them. They pumped him up. And but like Toddy said, he never won primetime games. Even when he was in Washington, he's a solid quarterback. Not going to say that. If he had a better team around him, maybe if he was on the Niners, obviously you guys got to figure out somebody. If he had a great team around him where it's not just where he has to propel them to victory for them to win, then maybe he could do some things. He could do what maybe a Jared Goff doing in Detroit. He could do some things. He's shown actually previous years his Vikings teams can put up some points when things, Dalvin Cook was there. Their always thing was, their defense was always bad. So they're going to need some draft capital to line up this defense to get it better, to make some more noise, because you won't want, when you got a guy like Justin Jefferson and a wide receiver league now, this type of league where when you got those guys are impact players, and they're showing. They shouldn't have let Dalvin Cook go. They shouldn't have let him go. Look what's happening now with this team. The dynamic has changed, and Madison hasn't really been able to step up to the plate as much as he could. So they're looking like they should have paid him and kept him in the house, and then maybe could have got some of these wins that they won last year in these tight games. So I feel like it's time to trade fact. It's time to trade Kirk Cousins and turn the page to get your franchise going in a different direction, because you can dominate this. If you can get a quarterback in this division, there's a chance you can dominate it. Even though the Lions are a great team, they still got Jared Goff. And who else are looking ready to talk down on Justin Fields? And we're all still iffy on Jordan Love. I know Toddy likes him a little bit, but we're still kind of iffy on Jordan Love. So they have a chance here. If they can get a guy in that quarterback position, they can make the skull clap. Whatever they say out there, I don't know.
Sorry about the technical difficulties for the audio-only listeners. So, Shaun, I'm going to come to you next. Fact or cap? The Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins.
Up until a couple weeks ago, I'd probably say that this is cap because they had the best wide receiver in the NFL right out to his right. But now, as has already been said, Justin Jefferson seems like he's going to be out for a while. The reports say he should return before the season ends. We don't know if that'll actually happen. And if it does, doesn't really matter if he comes back week 14 if the Vikings are trying to get to the playoffs. And so even though there have been some rumors, I don't know the validity of them, but there's been some rumors of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings both wanting him to return for next season. But given the fact that this is the last year of his contract and that I don't see the Vikings going anywhere soon, I would say that this is a fact that they need to trade him, move on. And as you started this segment, Kevin, Caleb Williams is there. Shadur Sanders is there. We don't know if Shadur is going to come out this year or next year, but there are options out there for the Vikings to move on from Kirk Cousins. So I would say that this is a fact. The real question is whether or not there are suitors out there who will actually give the Vikings something that they would be willing to trade Kirk Cousins for. That's the real question to me.
100%. So, Kaz, I'm going to bring it to you next. Fact or cap? The Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it's fact. What stinks about it is the Vikings just need a complete revamp. Us being Eagles fans, we went through with Carson Wentz. We were trying so hard just to make it work, make it right, give the opportunities, all that stuff. And the best thing we could have done was get Jalen Hurts in there. I think it was like week 6 or whatever it was, and bench Carson Wentz, and completely revamped our entire team and immediately become Super Bowl contenders. As a matter of fact, go to the Super Bowl. So I think the Vikings look around with what you got. You got TJ Hawkinson, you just signed him to a fat deal. Okay, highest paid tight end in the league, if I'm not mistaken. You have Justin Jefferson, which is a generational talent. You don't want to end up with a Calvin Johnson story. You don't want to end up with what could have happened. Randy Moss, we saw what happens the second Randy Moss went to the Patriots. They went undefeated and they lost in the Super Bowl. It's like, and then we sit here as NFL fans and we go, damn, man, the only thing that's missing is that guy didn't get a ring. Justin Jefferson, he wants that ring. TJ Hawkinson, you have a top tight end in the league. Kirk Cousins, I like you, man. I think you're a good quarterback. I just think, like somebody said it before, you know what you're going to get with Kirk. We know his ceiling. It's not going to result in a ring. And I think the guys around him realize that. And I think the best thing you can do is try to get some of this young talent that is existing and is going to continue to exist out of college. Restart, change everything. Other teams are doing it, and it's working very well. The Minnesota Vikings need to do it as well. You got to move on for Kirk Cousins and, wish him the best. But if you want to see that team thrive in any way, shape, or form, there needs to be a complete revamp, and it starts with the quarterback. So it's fact.
Well, I guess I got to be that guy to continue the train going. So the Vikings need to trade Kirk Cousins. Fact or cap? I'm going to go fact. We mentioned Dalvin Cook departing. We mentioned that Justin Jefferson being out 4 to 6 weeks. If Justin Jefferson's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, the Vikings are not going to compete. Let's not let Sunday them beating the Chicago Bears defer you from saying fact. There is so much talent coming up in this draft, and you're going to lose Kirk Cousins for anything. You're not going to lose him for anything anyways. You're going to lose. He's going to walk. So trade him for a 4th, 5th round pick to a contender. We talked about the quarterback class. We talked about Caleb Williams. We talked about Shadur Sanders, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix. There's plenty of quarterbacks in this draft, but if you keep Kirk Cousins in there, he's going to find a way to get a couple of wins. And at the end of the day, it's just going to take you further and further down that mock draft. So it's time to reboot and in with the old, out with the new. Like Kaz mentioned, we're seeing it all done all over the years, all over the league, And the perfect example is look at CJ Stroud coming into a new situation, and new life is in Houston. So I think this is a fact 100%.
All right, well, so now let's move on to our college football recap here on episode number 56 of Stats Over Politics. It's time for Kevin's bedtime, I believe, as he
yes, sir. I have to take the dog out and I have to get to bed. But Kaz, I just wanted to say thank you so much, man, for accepting my DM, man. You know, you just got a random mention by somebody and it ended up coming on the podcast, man. So I really do appreciate it. It's always nice to have some more brotherly love on here, man. Yeah, I don't know what these Niner fans are thinking, but it's nice to have some Eagles love on here, man. So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man, I can't thank you enough too, man. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast, and it's just all around fun, man. Like I said, I like doing this stuff, and I've always wanted to do something with people like you guys. And it's like, you know, everybody here's got that good knowledge, a good blend of people, and you know, everybody's just it's just kind of it's just right. I don't know, it just feels right. So I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you.
Right. Keep killing it, fellas. I'll be tuned in.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Kaz, Kevin has to depart about an hour and a half or so into every episode now, because we used to record at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I'm not sure what area of the country you live in, probably the East Coast, I'm guessing.
I'm in the Midwest, so I live in Iowa.
Okay, I have family who live out in Iowa, and so it's like,
Damn, what time is it there, brother? I'm sorry about that.
It's
Oh, good,
it's
man.
past midnight.
12:20.
Yeah, if you want to cut out too, man, we appreciate you too. It's all good.
Damn, Garry, try to kick him off.
No, it's 12:20, Von. Hold on now.
I'll stick around for a little bit longer, but yeah, I gotta be up in the morning as well. So, and I know we're gonna start talking about some college. I'm gonna listen in on this because I'm not a big college guy. I watch, but I'm a very casual watcher. I don't know much about it,
Don't
but
worry, Kaz.
it's something I'm trying to get more. I'm trying to get more into it. Obviously with Colorado being who they are, everybody watching that, but yeah. So I'm gonna stick around and still check you guys out. So
We appreciate that, Kaz. It's where can people find you, and what are your socials?
yeah, so socials, Twitter, Kazzybear TV, YouTube, Kazzybear TV, Instagram, everything's Kazzybear TV. And if you are into anything physical fitness, so I am a coach and a trainer as well. That is SSJ Kazzybear on Instagram. That's my primary page, but my sports page is all Kazzybear TV on all platforms.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kaz Johnson. We really appreciate you and hope to have you on for another episode of Stats Over Politics.
Please do. Please do.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
All right.
you, brother. Thank you.
Week 13 could not come soon enough. We appreciate Kaz for joining us on this week's episode of Stats Over Politics. It's Shaun Holko alongside Jaevon Toddy, Garry Singh. We're going to keep things rolling for these final two segments as we're getting into some college football. Jaevon, this wasn't a great weekend for you as a USC fan. We're going to get to that in a moment, but I wanted to just kick things off going over some of the big scores from the week as I bonk my mic. Audio only listeners, you couldn't see that, so that just gives you even more reason why you need to tune in on YouTube, X, and Twitch, just so you can see me accidentally bonk my mic. Anyways, nevertheless, in the biggest matchup of the week between Oregon and Washington, Oregon lost because some questionable coaching decisions, from my opinion. But number 7, Washington, they held down their home field to defeat number 8, Oregon, 36-33. In another top 25 matchup, Toddy's Trojans lost to Notre Dame in Indiana, 48-20. And then in another top 25 matchup, we had a lot of those this week. North Carolina, number 12, they beat number 25, Miami, by a score of 41-31. In Pac-12 action, number 15, Oregon State beat UCLA, who's number 18, 36-24. And also, Stanford came all the way back to beat Colorado. Toddy went to sleep. And what? Colorado was up like 29-0 when you went to sleep. And then after that, it got a little bit different as Stanford went on to complete the comeback and defeat Colorado in double overtime, 46-43. So basically, by going by my line of thinking from earlier, I guess that means, and I'm not the first person to say this, I won't be the last, but I guess that means that the Sac State football team is better than Colorado. That's what it means to me. Anyways, Jaevon, you could start things off for us, as I know that you're probably quite hurt that your Trojans not only suffered their first loss of the season, but they lost by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, so kind of going into the game, Notre Dame is a 2-loss team, so pretty much their playoff hopes are pretty much dead in the water. USC's coming in undefeated. Haven't really played too much competition. This is like our first real big test going into South Bend. We haven't won in South Bend since 2011. Kevin mentioned that in our group chat. Our group chat, we do reference this group chat a lot because there's a lot of just back and forth going on in there. A lot of nonsense going on in there as well. So pretty much going into it, I was saying, Caleb Williams was in middle school in 2011, so he hasn't, gotten a chance to play in South Bend. And, us being a really high-powered offense, I'm thinking that, we're going to be able to put up points. Our defense hasn't really been the greatest. We give up a lot of points pretty much. So I was thinking that it's going to be a shootout. Caleb's going to have the ball going in, to the final drive, and he's going to lead us to victory. And pretty much it was kind of the complete opposite of that. Caleb Williams was turning the ball over left and right. Had the worst game of his career pretty much. He looked human in all aspects of the game. And our defense was pretty much, keeping us in the game pretty much. And they were doing what they could. I mean, when we were turning the ball over, we were literally on like their 20-yard line. So they would get the ball, score out off of a turnover, and they get the ball back. They're on the 20. They're on 25-yard line. So they're pretty much already in the red zone whenever we turn the ball over. So I was just, pretty much shocked. And a lot of people are like, oh, Caleb Williams. And then you see the guy, there's like a viral picture of like a fan holding his phone up to Caleb Williams saying, how about those nails now? And just it is what it is. Caleb's still going to be the number one pick. He had a bad game. I don't think, any of the scouts. I feel like the scouts were like, okay, like he's not, we got to kind of slow down on the Patrick Mahomes comparisons, this, that, and the third. I mean, he had a bad game in college on the road. It didn't look good. I don't think this defines the season. One game does not define your season. I feel like he's going to bounce back, probably throw for like 5 touchdowns next game. So, I mean, that's just Notre Dame needed this win. I've kind of been very critical on Sam Hartman because pretty much every time I bet on them, they lose. Going back to the Ohio State game and even the Louisville game, they ended up losing. So this was a big win for Notre Dame by all parts. They needed this win just to, have it stack up on their resume because the losses that they have are to Louisville and to Ohio State. Ohio State is a top 4 team in the country. And Louisville is kind of coming on strong. I think they lost this past weekend to Pitt, if I'm not mistaken. So this win against USC was huge for them. And Marcus Freeman, a lot of people were saying, like, hey, the standard when Brian Kelly was here, it's like you can lose one game, but we're still going to go to the playoff. We can't be losing 3 and 4 games here at Notre Dame because that's not the standard here. And the standard is basically national champions, going all the way back to when Lou Holtz was the coach.
Garry, you had some thoughts that you wanted to share about college football, correct?
Yeah, me, I'm my casual self in college football, but I know like Kaz mentioned earlier, missed Coach Prime and get me into he's been watching his team. I'm not gonna lie, I've been watching his team, and I had it on Friday night, watching that game, and that game was I literally came out, what was it, 29-0, whatever like that, halftime. I went to take a shower, I come back, I'm like mid there, I'm like, whoa, this game has changed. What is happening to Coach Prime right now? And you know what? It was a tough loss to see. I think the kind of you can kind of see this coming from the distance. You were proud. I'm like, I'm on the wave with the Colorado Buffalo right now. I want them to win and prove all the haters wrong. Whatever Coach Prime says, I'm rocking with because I love his motivational, and I've been a fan with him for a very long time. Even I used to love watching him when he what's that one thing he used to do? Prime College or something like that on his show. He used to do it. I think.
I remember that. It was like 21st and Prime when he called like all
the he always calls you anytime you had a good game. I used to love watching, seeing what he says to the young players and stuff like that. Be excited to see him. Exactly. Kaz mentioned the same thing. Had the full intention. So it's been really great to see and watch his team, especially because he's been shaking it up, But football is football at the end of the day. And not to say obviously one of the greats in Prime doesn't know that, but he's been mentioning it left and right. And who I wanted, did Marcellus call this?
Colorado was the last leg of his parlay.
Oh, okay. Congrats to you.
God damn.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Oh, tough.
They were minus 470 to win.
Well, he bet it for Stanford. He bet it for Colorado.
Bet
for Colorado.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Tough. Well, a lot of people have been betting on that. So, that was a big comeback. You got to give Stanford credit. I know we mentioned earlier Coach Troy Taylor, who was previously coach of Sac State football, seeing him up there getting some shine was really cool to see. And Stanford team that, has, I think, their rushing. They have E.J. Smith, which is obviously the father and the son of Emmitt Smith, all time one of the great Cowboys running backs of all time. And so seeing him too, I've seen him on a couple shows too. But I think you'll be able to talk about this game. He wasn't able to get going, but just to see the Stanford team fight hard versus the Colorado team, like I kept mentioning, that I wanted to mention that this was going to be a force from the trees because they, like we mentioned, they've been racking up penalties and really hurting themselves. And, like I want to see a Cinderella story. Obviously, you see the beginning of the year of them, somehow, some way making it far. Maybe somehow, some way was going to make it to like the Final Four playoff. I don't know. Me, I'm called casual. So I was hoping to see some crazy stuff like that. Dion picks up a team with 1-2 wins, flips the whole thing around, gets all the players going, But, that's obviously not going to be in the cards this year. But I'm hoping to see them bounce back from this horrible loss that they had. This is really from going from flying high and crashing down low. But if anyone's built to lead a group of men, it's prime time. Shedeur Sanders getting all love, but now you're going to be getting the hate as well. So seeing him, I'm really just ready to see the bounce back. I know everyone's power on today of they beat themselves and this is a horrible loss. It looks bad. All people that get to been talking shit about them get to shine very smiley, get to smile and shine bright today and get to stand on their sword and their pedestal and say that they told you so. You can't be doing this in college football. You can't just make this the old heads kind of in a sense, like thinking that's a mockery or something like that. I feel like there's not respecting what Coach Prime's doing. And you know what? This is just going to make this team stronger. I think they're going to bounce back from this. And, there's some good things to take away from this game as well, because one of the things that's been a problem with this team, as Vonny already knows, and Shaun, you guys obviously been watching college football way more than me, that they've been starting out bad. So them starting out good this game was actually a positive take from this game. It's sad to see they couldn't, handle winning in the right fashion and, keep piling on and keep going because that's what good teams do. So they're in that good category to get to great. I thought this is going to be a good learning lesson also for Shedeur that, like one day, like people are really, I forgot who mentioned it, but they're really wondering to see, I think Eli Manning mentioned or something like that, like, he's been under his dad's watch the whole time as he's been his coach his whole life. So like seeing him, going to have some, your dad's not gonna be able to hold it, not say anything bad. He's obviously dad's not gonna be able to hold his hand, this whole way through. So like, seeing him now with some real adversity that, Coach Prime's not hopping on that field, guys. He can give you the pep talk. He was a dog on and off the field, but being in a coaching perspective, you can only do so much. And he's trying to give all his team all the motivation, all the key pointers, and coach them up to a T to make sure this doesn't happen again. So I feel like Colorado Buffalo, it's a tough one to take on the chin. I'm not gonna lie, this is a horrible one to take on the chin. This is an ugly one. I think I'd rather take the USC loss, even though because they were getting spanked, I guess, from the beginning. You already knew it. This is a heartbreaker at the end because this went to OT. They had a chance to, even with the comeback, they still had a chance to put it away. So it's a tough loss for the Colorado Buffalo, but it's going to be good in the long run for these young men to, buckle up and get to the great category.
It's definitely been an interesting season for the Buffaloes from Boulder because, as we all saw, week one, they take out the runner-up for the national championship last year being TCU, and they beat them by a field goal. Then they beat Nebraska by 20-plus points at home. Nebraska is what they have been for many years. Then they barely beat Colorado State in double overtime, but they did escape with that win. They get absolutely humbled by Oregon, and then they nearly come back to defeat USC. You got Shedeur doing the Shedeur, pointing to his watch, which is worth a lot more money than the watch I'm wearing. And they beat Arizona State 27-24, but then they lose in double overtime to a team like Stanford. It's been a humbling month for Colorado, even though they got that win against Arizona State. It's been a very humbling month for them, I think, dating all the way back to that Colorado State game when Travis Hunter got hurt. One thing that was positive about the Stanford game is Travis Hunter was able to make his return, but, it didn't work out well for the Buffs. Shout out to my family in Colorado. I hope they're still enjoying the season very much so. And shout out to friend of the pod, James, for being a Stanford fan and sticking through it with this super tough season. I can relate, and it was a good highlight for Stanford, considering how bad this season has gone. Anyways, any other thoughts that you guys wanted to share real quickly on college football before we close things out with Vonny's hotline? Yes.
The receiver Iomaro for Stanford had a quarterback stat line. He went 13 of 18 or 13 receptions with 18 targets. He had 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is a quarterback. That's a stat line that a quarterback would have, not a receiver.
I'm going to the league now.
Just a couple of other games that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit. North Carolina defeats Miami at home, 41-31. Drake May, he threw for like 273. He went 17 of 33. I thought he made a lot of good throws in this game. He didn't really lose the game. He had 4 touchdowns. I think the story of this game was Devontae Walker, the transfer that was deemed ineligible by the NCAA because he transferred from Kent State, and then he transferred to another school where his season got canceled by COVID, and the NCAA is just weird and just didn't want to let him play because
I thought you can transfer.
It was technically his second school, so it was like a whole thing in the offseason how you can't really transfer to 2 schools, but if your season gets canceled by COVID, they didn't really take that into consideration. Mac Brown was very outspoken about why he was not able to play during the start of the season. But Drake May had a great game. He threw 4 touchdowns. A lot of scouts. This was a highly anticipated matchup. It kind of like died off a little bit when Miami lost last week to Georgia Tech off of that, the fumble and that whole fiasco. So I thought Drake May looked really good. Pretty much all the top teams blew out everybody. The big game of the weekend was Oregon versus Washington. It was Bo Nix traveling to Husky Stadium. And I thought Michael Penix pretty much showed why he's the Heisman frontrunner, as a lot of people would probably think. Dan Lanning made some questionable calls. You can either rock with them or you don't, but you got to love a coach that believes in his guys, wanting to go for it on 4th down, especially at the end of the half, trying to get points to go up at halftime. Looking back on it, you probably would have ended up kicking the field goal, and, because those 3 points ended up needing in the end. And then at the basically towards the end of the game when they went for it to pretty much ice the game, and didn't really work out their way. Michael Penix pretty much in 2 plays scores. The Husky offense was pretty much unstoppable the entire game. Their offense is elite. They have probably several first-round wide receivers on the same team, which is pretty insane. But I just think that the way that they operate and how their offense looks pretty much unstoppable, they can pretty much beat anybody. If you could go down and score in 2 plays with the game on the line, you're gonna be a tough team to beat. Oregon had a chance to win at the end of the game and pushed the field goal wide right, which was probably the theme of the weekend, as Jake Moody does the same thing on Sunday. But that was probably, so far, I would say that would probably be the game of the year.
I completely agree. And my favorite part about that top 10 matchup in the Pac-12, and I saw this clip today, is apparently with the game on the line, all the stakes as high as they could be, Michael Penix, the starting quarterback for UW, was freestyling on the sideline, like not even with a care in the world. And it's not to say that he didn't care about the game, but where everyone's nerves are typically like all strung up and everyone's freaking out in that moment, he was cool, calm, and collected. Jaevon, you read my mind, because that's exactly what he was. And
did you guys see what Desmond Howard said about him before this?
I didn't. What did he say? He
said he's going to bring the big Penix energy.
Okay. Desmond, Pat McAfee must have been rubbing off on him a little bit too much.
It was insane. I couldn't believe he said that.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our college football recap. And our guy, Garry, he is a man of many jobs, so he has to leave us now.
Before I leave, Shaun, real quick, I want to mention one thing before I leave. Vaughn, did you watch his Paul fight and KSI fight this weekend, bro?
I did not. I
did not watch it. I watched the highlights. I usually like entertaining fights. I don't know why. I just wanted to say this real quick. Can we stop the foolery? You're over disrespecting boxing, I feel like. This is people who are like, I respect Jake a little more because at least he looked like he puts work into his craft.
Logan. You mean Logan?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about Jake. Logan was looking all right, bro.
Well,
Logan
was the one who fought this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
About
He
this
was looking
weekend's
all
fight.
right. That's what I'm saying. He don't look like he take boxing as serious as his
At
brother
least,
does.
at least Logan didn't get on his back and put all fours in the air like Dylan Dennis making
Yeah,
a
exactly.
mockery
But like,
of the sport.
okay, let's let me put that way. Cause you know, I'll give you right. I'll give you right. Can we not fight? Can Logan? Can you not fight chumps? I know it's all entertainment. It's YouTube. They run with the views. People want to see, especially if you're in that community. You want to see. My brother educates me on this. I'm not really into those type of people, but I love, he educates me. He's kind of entertaining. I get into a little storylines and stuff too. Can't hate on it. Actually, also with KSI, but man, that's just really disrespectful when you see just poor boxing skills. And just I get it. Fights are fights. People want to see people fight, but it's like, bro, can we just have some more entertaining fights? Something that's like a little bit more comparable. It just looks so. That's why you see UFC just shitting on boxing left and right, because Dana White puts the great fights together with real fighters, and we don't have all this entertainment foolery going on. We got the best skill sets of best skill sets. So again, it's tip of the hat to like UFC being great, and again knocking down boxing, which I used to love boxing way more than UFC. So I just wish, can we just get some better fights going again? Just come on, man. This is what we care about now. It's like, come on. That's not like an old head, but like I usually like these fights too. But I'm like, I just don't like what you said, Shaun. We fight on the ground like idiots now. Like, this is boxing, bro. Learn how to box. If you know how to box, don't get up in there. Meet him out. Go fight. Go call a regular fight. No gloves. Just whatever. Don't call it boxing. If you don't want to box, if you don't want to go about boxing rules, bro, don't box. Simple as that. But anyways, thanks for having me on the pod, guys.
Yeah, well, Garry, your first mistake was considering either of those guys. I like Logan Paul a lot more than I like Dylan Dennis, but your first mistake was considering either of those guys legit boxers, fighters, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
you know what? You know what Logan Paul is? He's a WWE superstar, and he is a legitimate WWE superstar, and he's talented. So, Garry,
I like him.
Peace. Thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good show. Vonny Hotline. Go cook it up, my brother. Have a blessed one. See y'all next week.
It was a rough week for Vonny's Hotline, Jaevon, as you went 10-10 in the first 5 weeks, chilling at 500. We were doing all right. But Vonny's Hotline, it took a bit of a hit this week, Jaevon, as Vonny's Hotline went 1-3. And before we get into each game from last week's picks, and then also what you got cooking for this upcoming week, I wanted to ask you about the strategy. Because the strategy behind your picks this past week, and this kind of touches on something that Evan said in the infamous group chat, where your picks this past week seem to have a lot of favoritism and a lot of your heart was in it. You picked USC. You picked the 49ers. You picked North Carolina. Okay, at least North Carolina got the job done. But you had a lot of your heart in this week's picks, and I just want to know, was that a mistake to do so?
Sometimes you get caught up in the madness. You get lost in the sauce. I'll just dive right into it. USC money line got curb stomped. Got curb stomped out on the road. UNC, I had them on UNC money line. I thought they were the better team over Miami, even though Miami has been playing pretty decent up until, like I've already mentioned last week. The Niners -5 looked like it was free money earlier in the week, how we caught it because the line ended up jumping after Deshaun Watson. They announced that Deshaun Watson wasn't going to play and PJ Walker was going to get the start. So that -5 looked like free money. But, who would have thought that, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey all get hurt. Brock Purdy, looks very pedestrian in the start. And, the Niners ultimately have a chance at winning the game, but they had no business covering in that game, even though that they were going to win. Saints -1.5. I'm tired of betting on the Saints, man, and just keep losing. I'm tired of this, man, because Saints keep on letting me down. You guys tune in every week. I have a little bit of a Saints agenda and how good they can be, but
a little.
Sometimes you got to wake up and smell a coffee and just say it's time to put old Yeller down. So I gotta put the Saints to bed, man. Until they prove me otherwise, maybe we go down with the ship with them on Thursday night. But I'm gonna try and do my best to stay away from them. So, think about gambling, man. You get a fresh start every week, right? So, going into Saturday, you and Kevin are gonna love this one. I'm going with Ohio. I got the Buckeyes. Saturday morning, big noon kickoff against Penn State. Now, this is a a very highly anticipated matchup. I do think Penn State has the better quarterback in Drew Aller, albeit he is a sophomore quarterback. But I think this Buckeye team is starting to figure things out a little bit. The defense is creating turnovers, offensive scoring points. Henderson is back there, back from injury. Marvin Harrison, we all know, is the best receiver in the country. And plus, they're at home too, so they're at the shoe. I'm confident that they're going to be able to win. I think it'll be a closer game than a lot of people think. The line is 3.5, so I'm going to buy the point down to 3 at -130, and we're going to rock with Ohio State at the shoe, -3 for Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the next game on this.
Well, hold on, but before you move on, I just wanted to
first
mention
time bet on Ohio State this year. I've been betting against them.
Hey, well, thank you for that. But also something I wanted to say for everyone tuning in right now is you mentioned, you believe Penn State has the better quarterback in this matchup.
I do believe that. I think Drew Aller is better than McCord. I don't think McCord.
Ladies and gentlemen, he says that because he hates Kyle McCord. You remember how I don't like Kenny Pickett? Well, that's the same for Jaevon, just with Kyle McCord, and he has been hating on him since well before the season started. And please continue with your second game.
Okay, another college game. They are coming off of a pretty weird loss. I have the Missouri South Carolina game here. Missouri is favored -7.5. They put up points. This team, a lot of people aren't talking about Luther Burden. We mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. is the #1 receiver in the country. Luther Burden is going to be one of the top receivers to come out of this year's draft. He's just been on a tear this past year. The way that this offense has been putting up numbers is insane. So he'll be getting involved in a lot. And South Carolina is just, I don't think they're that good. Just the way that they've been playing. They were up against Florida this past weekend at home. They're up 10 with like 9 minutes left, and they kind of, shit themselves and let Florida back into the gates, and they ended up coming back and winning. So I'm going to roll with Missouri here, -7.5, lay the points. I think Missouri probably wins by 2 touchdowns in this game. So give me Missouri -7.5
That is a lot
here.
That is a lot of points.
Yeah, touchdown, pretty much. They got to win by 2 scores, basically. So those are the 2 games I'm going to rock with. So we have Ohio State -3. That's -3. We bought that down from 3.5. I'm rocking with the Buckeyes. I'm going to be putting on my Buckeyes jersey. I think they get the win and they do cover. And we're rocking with Missouri -7.5 against South Carolina, and Missouri is at home. That is -110. So we are going to roll on in till Sunday's matchup. Now, last weekend, like we said, the Niners did not cover the spread because they just decided not to show up. They were very emotional, coming off the Cowboy win, and 2 juggernauts kind of going at it. Are the Cowboys really juggernauts? I mean, hey, we just won on Monday night, but that's neither here nor there. Game I'm looking at here, oh man, it's going to be a close game. Baltimore at Detroit. I have said on this podcast, actually earlier in this podcast, I think the Ravens are the best team in the league. And the Lions are going to be tested here. I think this will be their first, besides obviously the Chiefs game, this will probably be one of their toughest games of the year. But I am going to roll with the Ravens here, -3. I love the Ravens in the spot. I've already mentioned on this podcast, I think Lamar is kind of just starting to get into the groove of this offense. The connection with Zay Flowers that he has been, match made in heaven. And I don't even think that they have really gotten Odell Beckham Jr. involved. He's kind of been battling injury back and forth. And I think he kind of gets going in this game. I do see the Ravens winning by obviously more than 3 points. They'll probably win by a touchdown, I think. But I do think the Lions are going to be in this game pretty much the entire game. And the Ravens kind of pull away at the end. And I have the Ravens -3 in this game. Oh man, I kind of went back and forth on. Okay, I'm not going to put this on my hotline, but a lean that I kind of have is this Buffalo Bills team -9 against the Patriots. The Patriots can't score. Like, it's just Mac Jones can't put up points. And I feel like this weird game that the Bills kind of came off of, they're going to kind of go. The game is in New England, albeit, but I just think the Bills are just going to put up so many points against that Chiefs team. But not on the hotline. It's a lean. Bills -9. Another game.
Let me just ask real quickly for those of us who aren't betting aficionados. What does a lean mean?
Pretty much, it's not like something I'm going to bet, but something that I'm like, all right, like if I did have to bet, it's like something I'm kind of up in the air about. But I feel like I just have a gut feeling on like, hey, this is probably going to happen. But weird things happen all the time. Like this past weekend, the Bills were -1250 against the Giants. And they only ended up winning by, what was the final score? Like 14-9 or something like that. So it gets weird. Vegas is weird. Like, I really just can't explain it. The odds makers are, they make as much money. The reason that they do is just, it's crazy. So
a lean is basically like next up in the queue that you're.
It's like a run. It's like a what is it? Honorable mention.
Gotcha.
That's basically.
I gotcha.
It's like an honorable mention.
So what's your fourth one?
Fourth game. Waiting all day for Sunday night, baby. Eagles or Dolphins at Eagles.
Interesting.
We kind of had the factor cap. Are the Dolphins the best team in the league? I'm not so sure. Maybe. I think the Eagles bounce back here. I'm rolling with the Eagles. Right here, I have it at -1. There are different books that have it at -2. Just because it's Monday, so the line really hasn't set. So it's probably going to go.
ESPN has it at 1.5 right now.
1.5, 1. I think it probably sits at probably 1.5, 2. But right here, I'm looking at -1 for the Eagles. I love that. I think that they bounce back, and I'm pretty sure they'll get healthier on defense. Darius Slay comes back. Jalen Carter comes back. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw 3 picks. AJ Brown, he's been playing pretty well these past couple of games, win, lose, or draw. And I think they get the guys involved. I think DeAndre Swift has more touches in this game from the 10 that he had this past game. I think he rushes for 70-ish yards. Jalen Hurts probably might have a tush push in this game and getting it in the rushing touchdown category, as he usually. I think he had like 15 last year on a bunch of just QB sneaks. But I think Jalen Hurts bounced back in this game. It's a primetime game. It'll probably be the best game of the weekend as far as NFL goes. Like we say, waiting all day for Sunday night. So I'm going to rock with the Eagles here -1. And pretty much to recap what we have for the hotline, we are going back to Saturday. We are rocking with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Just that made me throw up in my mouth a little bit, the way that
you loved it.
It came out. But we like to see greenery here. We don't care. Sometimes you got to put your bias to the side a little bit. If you want to win money, you got to tuck your tail a little bit. We're gonna go with Missouri -7.5. I just think I think South Carolina is a dog shit organization right now, and they're just not good at all. I bet on them in the past. Earlier in the year, I had them on the hotline to beat North Carolina, and North Carolina walked right over them. So maybe this is probably more personal to me, and I'm rocking with Missouri -7.5 there. Baltimore -3 over the Lions, and the Lions have been playing as good as anybody. They're 5-1, tied for the best record in the league. I think there's a few teams out there that are also 5-1. Niners, Eagles, Lions, Chiefs, and I think the Dolphins. Those might be the only 5-1 teams. But I think the Ravens are one of the best teams in the league, and they get it done at home by winning by at least a field goal. And then I have the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Another game where, you got to tuck your pride off a little bit to the side. We know that Kevin and I kind of go at it a little bit on who's the better team, 49ers or the Eagles. But I think you would also consider the Eagles as one of the best. I think it's pretty much universally recognized. Eagles are one of the best teams in the league. These are, two of, you could argue, the top 5 team. I already mentioned the teams that are 5-1. The Eagles and the Miami Dolphins were in that same conversation. So I think the Eagles bounce back here at home, coming back home, getting a big win on Sunday Night Football. I think Jalen Hurts shows you guys why he's one of the better quarterbacks in this league. I think the line is -1 for a reason. So, I mean, it's not like the Dolphins are just going to sit down and roll over. Like our boy Kaz said earlier in the podcast, they put up 70 points. It's a lot of goddamn points for any team. In the history of the league, it's just a lot, period. So, I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a monster game, even if Darius Slay is covering him. But I do think if Jalen Carter does come back, they're going to provide pressure on that D line. And we've seen that when Tua really doesn't do well with pressure. And the one loss that they had against Buffalo, who was sacked, I want to say a good handful of times in that game. So I feel like the key to beating the Dolphins is being able to put pressure on Tua and he won't have as much time to throw and get, to his, Tyreek Hill, to the Jalen Waddles, and Raheem Mostert getting involved. And there will be no Devon Achane in this game. I think he's on IR, so he's gonna be missing a bit of time, and hoping a speedy recovery. But this is probably gonna be the game of the weekend. But I'm gonna rock with the Eagles -1 here. I know we kind of all. I don't mean to cut you off, Shaun. I know I went 1-3 last week, but the group chat, I have been posting my winnings. I'm not going to say how much I've been winning, but if the people in the group chat know what I've been posting. It's been consistent, and I know on these hotlines I've been been shit these past 2 weeks, been 1-3, but still been winning. It's just I don't really get to talk every day about what I'm gambling on in the past week, but I will say, the Texas Rangers are somebody you need to get a hold of, because the Rangers are undefeated in the play. Not a huge baseball guy, not a huge hockey guy, but that's kind of
you are a baseball and hockey expert.
For some weird reason, I don't know how, but it just happens this way. And I'm just a follower of like momentum, trends, and kind of just studying how they've been playing these past couple of games with these Rangers, man. These Texas Rangers, they went up 2-0 today, and I wanted to put them on my parlay, but I didn't know the game started at like 2:00 today. That was gonna start at like 3, and I'm like trying to place my bet. And they're like, "Oh, the game started already," and they're already up 2-0, and I'm like, "Game's over. They're gonna win." So somebody to look out for. Phillies look unstoppable too at home. Bryce Harper is a freaking monster. It's red. They call it red. They'll call it Red October for no reason. So, basically, playoff baseball is something that I just live for, and I just love it. I don't know. I'm just drawn to baseball right now. Like, you can't catch me without me watching a baseball game. I couldn't tell you all the players now, but I'm still out there. I'm watching. I'm learning. And I'm starting to figure out. Same thing with hockey too. So I'm starting to learn a little bit of the lingo and rules. In hockey, when the game goes into overtime, it's 3-on-3 hockey, and team has 5 minutes to score. And if nobody scores in that 5 minutes, it goes into shootout. And Jesus Christ, it's like the worst thing ever. It's like those in college football when it gets to like a certain overtime and you just have to go for 2. It's basically like that. So. Yeah, hockey and baseball, not for the weak.
Jaevon has absolutely no interest in the 162 regular season baseball games throughout the season. However, October baseball is a different beast, and when those playoffs come, we know who to find.
How about the Liberty, huh?
How about those New York Liberty? I already went after Evan. He said that's true, Shaun, so he admitted he was wrong about a sweep. I was going to let it go for you, Jaevon. You and we already talked about it in the group.
So does it go, is it best of 7 for the finals?
No, it's best of 5. Hopefully in years in the future, it'll be best of 7.
Because I saw the game on Wednesday. It's in New York. I thought the game would have went back to Vegas.
No, because this is game 4, and the first 2 were in Vegas. So first 2 in Vegas, next 2 in New York, and then a potential winner-take-all game 5 would be back in Vegas this upcoming Friday.
That changes some things, maybe.
I will just say on the topic of the WNBA finals, because this is a personal gripe, and I'll just share this real quickly. This scheduling has just been inconvenient just for me.
It's weird.
Hasn't been inconvenient.
So spread out.
Yeah, it is pretty spread out, but like just the days have been so inconvenient for me. Like game 1, I was able to be there in the building. Okay. Game 2, I missed it because I was covering a high school volleyball game in Woodland for my job. Game 3, okay, I got to see it all because it was on Sunday. Game 4, I got another volleyball game to cover, one that I can't miss between 2 of our schools on Wednesday. So I can't watch the game on Wednesday. I don't have anything to do tomorrow. I don't have anything to do on Thursday. But apparently the game has to be played on Wednesday. Then Friday, I got high school football to cover every single Friday. Oh, well, game 5, if there is a game 5, it'll be on Friday. So if you see me standing on a sideline somewhere near you and you just see my phone in front of my face, probably have the WNBA finals on ESPN Plus or the app or whatever, just trying to see it for a little bit before I watch the game in its entirety later on. Anyways, go New York Liberty. Hopefully next time when we talk to you all here on Stats Over Politics, the New York Liberty have won their first championship in team history. Toddy disagrees, as does Evan, that they don't think that's going to happen. But I guess we'll have to wait and find out, because that's going to do it for another episode of Stats Over Politics. For our special guest, Kaz Johnson, Kevin Dent, Garry Singh, I am Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It really helps. If you enjoy the show, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live, and click all notifications so you know exactly when and where we have new content and when we go live, just in case if we have a bonus episode. Toddy, do you want to share that special news real quickly for the end of the episode, or should we save it?
So yeah, me and Kev will be going live Friday, I believe, at 7:30 to preview the NBA season. Yes, we are forgetting that NBA basketball is getting back, and we're going to figure out on who's going to win the title, who's going to be the number 1 seed, and who's going to win MVP. You know, how good are the Kings going to do? You guys might want to tune in this coming up Friday on Stats Over Politics.
And is that going to be just this Friday, or are you guys going to do it a weekly NBA show now? Just focused on the NBA.
It's going to be a weekly reoccurring show on Friday. So got to get some basketball content in there. I know, all the LeBronologists are going to come out for it and be ready for it, and all the Kings fans and want to know, are the Kings going to be the number 1 seed this year? Well, we don't know. We'll figure it out.
And I'm looking forward to hearing that later on. Stats Over Politics, adding a second episode every week for basketball. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics, and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you've been tuned into episode number 56 of Stats Over Politics with Kaz Johnson, I am Shaun Holko for Jaevon, Toddy, Kevin Dent, and Garry Singh. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you, Jaevon and Kevin. We'll see you guys on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for some hoops. We'll see you then.
Peace.